wintry mix of day on Central in upstate New York. PJ is down in the great state of Florida, and you know that Thursdays is the PJ takeover, but boy, do I have a surprise for you. No longer will you just be hearing Papa Joe's voice. You will be seeing his expressions. You will be seeing him picture in picture with me. We got a lot of great things going on. We're going to do our picks on the screen again. The college football playoff brackets is going to be up for you. Look at that thing. Look at how pretty that thing looks right there as we start off the season of college football playoff play. Inside of Ma and Pa's Papa Joe, we're going to talk bowl season, Marshall opting out, opt-outs in general, what's going on, the transfer portal, so many different things in college football. We'll get to some games. We'll see how we did in predicting other games. We will predict the college football playoff, folks. And we'll also get into our NFL picks, see how we did in Week 15, check on Week 16, make our picks for that, and get into Major League Baseball. So with that being said, as Papa Joe has so fittingly called it here, as we come to you on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com, he has decided to call this edition of our time together 2 hours of mayhem. So with that being said, look who's on the screen. Papa Joe, how we doing?
Good morning, Daniel. This ought to be a hoot, boy, I'll tell you.
Yeah, I'm excited to do this, excited to have you on the broadcast. Let's get into something that I wanted to talk about at the beginning of this week, and we ran out of time. So that being the Marshall opt-out. The fact that an entire school decided to opt out of a game. Not a player, not the quarterback, not the cornerback, not the defensive tackle, not the running back getting set for the NFL, but the entire team said, we're not playing in a bowl game. And I was on site at the Army-Navy game in our nation's capital when the news came out about Marshall. We were literally sitting there for Army-Navy. Army's in the bowl game that was supposed to play this matchup against Marshall. So we're sitting there getting that news right before Army's about to play. It's like, hey, they don't have somebody to play against in the bowl game to follow. What are your thoughts on not only opting out as a player, but when an entire school opts out of a bowl game?
Oh, Daniel's disgusting. You know, I sent you that. I first read it, and then I said, I can't believe it. So I had to read it again, and I said, I got to send this to you. I didn't know where you were, but I sent it to you, and you responded quickly because it is disgusting. We've lost control of these kids. These kids are running the zoo. It can't be that way. The opting out is disgusting. The transfer portal, I don't know if it's good or bad. Apparently, there's some conjecture about maybe it shouldn't even have it. So, Marshall, what does Marshall do? I guess Marshall wimped out. I got to be careful with this because Marshall's one of Mary's universities that she graduated from. So, but she's running around. I don't think she'll hear me. But it's Charlie Huff. He had a choice to leave, and he did. Yeah. Unfortunately, Marshall wouldn't. What they didn't do is they didn't follow up with a contract for him. Even this last year, they were negotiating, doing this. You know how the way the game goes, yeah. and they didn't come to an agreement. So the guy goes somewhere else, which is in the same conference, Southern Miss, and he's probably going to make more money. So, you know, it's Marshall's fault in not following up with Charlie Huff, and it's also Marshall's fault for not controlling what their kids are supposed to be doing. Those kids should not have come to them and says, we're not playing this game, period. You can't do that, Daniel. You can't hold up your school like that.
Yeah.
Why is this happening like this?
Well, it's happening like this because the student athletes could do what they want to do now. And, you know, in the past, it was that the coaches could do whatever they want to do and the schools could do whatever they want to do. Well, now the players can do whatever they want to do. So now we're living in a world where two wrongs don't make a right, but this is where we're at. Well, the coaches can leave, so now I can leave. Well, if this guy sits out, then I can sit out. But the thing with the transfer portal that has helped bring about this opt-out for Marshall in this situation is that they had like 25 guys enter the transfer portal. So here's my question to you. Should the portal be even open during bowl season, during the college football playoff? Should we not close the portal and have, so the season ends, the regular season, the conference championships happen, the portal's closed, and then the portal can't open until after bowl season, until after the college football playoff. I understand early enrollment and they want to get in there for spring ball and all that good stuff because the national championship's January 20th. But my question to you, PJ, is should we keep the transfer portal closed until after the college football playoff national championship? Because if we had done that, Marshall couldn't have opted out because no matter how many players wanted to leave, they couldn't have left until after the bowl game was played.
That's a double-edged question right there. Of course it should be closed. I don't know why they didn't think about this. But the only problem I have with that is that the players that could be leaving that are seniors or finished their eligibility are going up to the pros. Now, if you're going to close it, then you got to close it for the seniors that are opting out too to go to the pros. You can't have it both ways. You can't leave the transfer portal open and then let the seniors go opt out and go to the pros. So if you're going to opt it out, it's got to be the whole thing.
Yeah,
and I agree with that.
Yeah, and Greg said, if some of these guys want to leave and they're told the portal isn't open yet, then they'll just sit out. Listen, if you want to play football and if you want to get out there, you want to play football, you're going to the NFL, but you got one more. Listen, if someone's going to sit out because they're going to the NFL and that's a decision that they made, then that's a decision that they made. But the transfer portal, to me, it should not open until after bowl season. It just shouldn't open until after bowl season. I'm going to tell you why. When you play an entire season with your team and you get to a bowl game, well, Dan, bowl games don't matter. There's so many of them. They're not in the college football playoff outside of these 6, so who cares? Here's the thing about bowl season that people don't get. It's extra practice. It's extra time. It gives opportunity to guys that may have not played all season. It may give opportunity to freshmen because it can't count against their redshirt season. So there's all that piece of it. There's money that goes to the school. There's the travel element. These bowl games try to put on a great show for the kids. They give them gifts. They spend money on these kids. They set up events. Like the Holiday Bowl that Syracuse is in, the DirecTV Holiday Bowl, that is not in the college football playoff. But me as a media member, I got asked if I wanted to do the events because on Christmas Eve, they're going on a Navy tour, and I think they're going out on a ship. On Christmas Day, they're going to SeaWorld. So, think about how much money they spend on these kids. You're not taking a few people to SeaWorld. You're taking the media and like 100 players plus the coaches. So you got to buy SeaWorld tickets for 150 people, 200 people. But they're willing to do those things, and they're willing to show you the area. So you have to remember that a lot of these kids that play college football are not going to play in the NFL. Or if they play in the NFL, it's going to be not for long. So having these moments with your team, it builds camaraderie, it builds a connection, it puts money in the school's pocket, it gives opportunities to the kids, it gives gifts to the kids, it helps the kids travel. How many of these kids have ever been to San Diego? I was talking to the coaches last night at the dart party because you don't know this, PJ, but Fran Brown, the head coach of the football team at Syracuse, held a party last night, called me personally and asked me to be his guest of honor. So I got to go out there and see him. I didn't get up there at the beginning of the party because I was down in Binghamton. I gave my word to Binghamton men's and women's basketball that I'd be down there for their games. So when he called me, I turned around and drove in the snow an hour just to get back to see him for a little bit. But I was talking to the coaches on the Syracuse football team. They've never been to San Diego. These guys are recruiting. They're traveling all over the place. They've been at different schools before. They've never been to San Diego. So a lot of us are going there for the first time ever. We're experiencing it for the first time ever. So there's a lot that goes into being in a bowl game, even if it's not for the college football playoff national championship. But I ask you this question, Papa Joe. We've already found out that Ohio State's got guys in the portal. They're in the college football playoff. They're playing for a national championship, and I believe 2 of their quarterbacks have already said, when this season's over, we're gone. So if I'm a player and I'm playing for a national title, but I've already found out in the news that my quarterback is abandoning me after this season. Do I really want to win a national championship with that guy?
That's embarrassing. Frankly, that's embarrassing. Again, I reflect back to what I just said earlier, that the kids are running the show, and it shouldn't be that way. The transfer portal was set up to get other players that are not playing on their team a chance to play for another team, not to make more money on NIL and all this other kind of stuff. That's what's holding things up. There's a reason why Nick Saban left and some of these other coaches have left. The Virginia basketball coach left.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they left. They saw this coming, and they didn't want to mess with it. And I don't blame them. Imagine if Kalen DeBoer had 40 guys walk out, which may happen, I don't know. Would he play the game? Yeah. Play a game? Daniel, it's upsetting to me. And I know that when I sent you that once sent you that article, that I know you jump all over it, and you should be, and you have been. And I think that the powers that be have got to, after the season, they should come up with some different rules. Maybe let the guys go that want to go to play pros. Go ahead and let them go. But the other kids that are transferring out, they need to stay home. And you're right. How many kids get to travel? They don't get to travel too much.
Yeah.
The kids from poor backgrounds, I mean, you're zipping all over the place. Who cares if you don't win the game? I mean, look what you do. You go to SeaWorld, you have a lot of fun. People spend a lot of money on you. No, I'm really put off. Frankly, I don't even want to see the portal at all. I mean, I'm one of the old timers here. If the kid goes to school, he goes to school. Not once, and during on this portal stuff, did anyone say anything about education?
Yeah.
Are the kids are leaving from the portal, going to another school? Have they finished their semester? Did they take their final exams? Do they have any grades at all to send? That just really annoys me. Annoys me to no end, really. I really don't have anything other to say that I'm pissed about it and have been since the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, and I can tell you, I mean, here's the benefit of the transfer portal. I'm going to tell you the benefit of it. The opportunity, so I have seen, because I'm friends with these student athletes, I don't just talk to them for stories. I build relationships with them, and I'm grateful for those relationships. I'm grateful to God above everything for that. I've had guys on the show from Syracuse that wanted to transfer out of Syracuse because they weren't fitting. Jordan Fredericks came on the show, running back, came from the state of New York, and he wasn't fitting in. He felt like the coaches asked him to do things. He would do things. Some was on him. He would fix it, do what he had to do. But after a certain amount of time, he's like, okay, no matter what I do, I'm not getting on the field. One of his teammates stood up for him, and allegedly that teammate had a coach go to them and say, like, do you have a problem? Like, we're not, if you stick up for this kid, then are we going to have a problem? So the kid says to the coach, I want to leave. And back in the day, before the transfer portal, the coach could not only be told you can't go within conference. So, Fran Brown could go to a kid and say you could go anywhere but the ACC. Back in the day, you could do that. The ACC was one of the conferences that had an extra rule. If you transferred within the ACC, if they let you do that, you didn't sit out 1 year, you sat out 2 years. You still had your eligibility, but you had to sit out 2 years, which means, God forbid, you had to actually get an education because you couldn't play football. So you look back at those old rules and say you had to sit out a year. Sometimes you had to sit out 2 years. A coach could tell you where you couldn't go. A coach could literally give you a list of schools that's as long as they wanted it to be. So this guy, Jordan Fredericks, told me when he was at Syracuse and he wasn't fitting into whatever they wanted him to do, and no matter what he did, they weren't letting him get on the field, and he felt defeated, and he's like, okay, this coaching staff, even if I do what they ask me to do, they're not going to play me. That's not fair. I want to go somewhere where I'm appreciated. He had a list of schools that were recruiting him before, and those schools were interested in him still. And the coach gave him a list, and it had the names of those schools on there. So it was like, you can't be here. If you don't want to be here, or if you're here, you're not going to play. And you can't go to any of the schools that actually want you. So then he had to go to a school that he didn't really want to go to, and he had to continue his career that way, because back then a coach could tell you, if you're not going to play for us, you're not going to play for any of these schools, And in the case of Jordan Fredericks, it was all these schools that wanted him. So the coach left him no good choice. That was a problem before the portal, that a coach could literally put you on a team and bury you on his own team and then not allow you to go to other teams, call around and see who wanted you and block you from going there. And so essentially give you no options and not allow you to continue your career and do the things you wanted to do. So the coaches had too much control back then. You had to sit out a year. Sometimes you had to sit out 2 years. So for that reason, the portal is good. But where the portal is bad is that the portal is open at very unique times. The portal opens at the end of the regular season. If you don't make it to the college football playoff, there's a lot of emotion. So a guy might be like, screw this, I'm not doing this. You get to the end of the season and you don't get to a bowl game. So you want to leave. You get to the end of the season and they haven't given you your check for NIL yet. So you want to leave. And there's all these reasons at the end of the season that a kid can run that has nothing to do with his team. Now, I agree when a coach leaves, you should be able to leave. And in the case of Marshall, in the case of Washington State, your head coach leaves, and some guys want to leave with that coach. So I understand that. The problem is when you do it at the end of the season, when the season's still going on and the postseason is being played, the season's not over yet. And if I learned anything from my parents and my grandparents, you finish what you start. So there's that element that the portal's bad. The other element, PJ, that the portal's bad is it opens after spring ball. Remember last season, Nick Saban's final season, right after spring ball, he finished on a Sunday. He had a guy in the portal on Monday, a guy on Tuesday, and a guy on Wednesday. Think about spring ball now. If I'm a head coach and you're in my spring ball practices, you are learning my play. You have my playbook. You're with my players. You hear what I say to my players. You hear the different things we use. You see all the symbols and the signs. So if I'm in Alabama and I'm a quarterback, I go through all of spring ball with Kalen DeBoer, and then I transfer out to Florida. Now I can tell Florida Alabama's playbook. I can take pictures of the playbook. I can tell you the symbols. I can tell you what the coaches do. I can tell you what they have that you don't have. I can essentially be a spy for you. So why after spring ball, right after a spring game, is the portal open? So if you find out after spring ball, coach comes over to you and says, you're not going to be my starting corner. You didn't earn that job. Other guys worked harder than you, did more than you. So it's on you that you're the third string corner. And he says, screw you, coach. I'm going somewhere else. So to have it open at the end of the season with the season still going on, at the end of the regular season, you're going to have guys moving like Jaden Bellamy at Syracuse. He's one of the starting cornerbacks for Syracuse, but he just jumped in the transfer portal, so he can't play in the game. If he waited to go into the portal until after December 27th, he could have played in the game with his brothers at Syracuse, and then he could go to his next chapter. But because he announced now, he's not a part of the team, so he's not going to San Diego, because Syracuse is not going to spend money on a guy who's not going to be committed to the team. So I just feel like the timing of having it at the end of the season, right around Christmas time, you got a lot of emotion, you got a lot of things going on, and guys are running away when the season's still going on. By the way, remember the quarterback from UNLV? He quit on the team 4 games into the season, declared himself a redshirt, and told everybody he was going to transfer, and then booked it out. So the fact that the portal allows you to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, quit on your team during the postseason, quit on your team after spring ball, it just doesn't feel right, Papa Joe. And like I said, there's a lot of things where schools and coaches could hold a guy back. You had to sit out a year. You had to sit out 2 years. All that stuff was wrong, but it was so wrong to one side that now it's swung so wrong to the other side. Now there's no rules, no parameters. They say there's rules, but I don't see any. And basically a guy can quit on you whenever he feels like it, and he can pack his bags and be gone in the morning.
That's right, Dan. What you're saying is correct. I mean, I understand the position of the player, but they sign a contract to go to this school for an education. I want to keep harping on this until people listen. You're there for an education, not to play football. Football should be a sidelight for you. You should be thankful to this school for paying for your education. You should be going to school, classes, graduate, have fun. You know, It's got to, Daniel, they have to stop it, and they had to start all over again next year to make it right. What you're saying is correct on all fronts. If a kid is frustrated, if he's a third team corner, well, tough kid, do better, play better, but get an education, stay in classes. Not once did I hear these kids that are transferring, are the grades going with the kids? Are they going to be okay in class? That's all I care about. I mean, I love the football. I love to see the kids play, and I love their excitement about it. But if I got a final in history, I got to be there and take my final before I go anywhere. It makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense to these kids because they don't care about it. They don't care about it. They care about playing. They care about showing off on TV, and they're playing about NIL. That's all I care about. Everything else is moot. You're not going to say one kid, well, I'm doing this. I'm going to go to med school. I'm going to be a doctor. You don't hear that kind of stuff. You don't hear it at all. All I want to do is I want to go to play for Alabama, and I'll make a tackle, and I show off, and I'm on TV. That's all. That's all I care about. No education.
Essentially, we've made college football just another part of the NFL. And doing that, I mean, yes, the NCAA is $1 billion non-for-profit organization, and student athletes should make money in some way, shape, or form, but it needs to have parameters. And there's an article that I wrote that was a cautionary tale. I warned about it 6 years ago. I got on this show here on Wake Up Call, and I said to you all, 5 to 10 years from now, the NCAA, if it exists, the NCAA will look drastically different if it even exists at all. That's what I told you 5 to 10 years. That's what I said 6 years ago. I said 5 to 10 years from now, if they keep doing what they're doing, the way that they're doing it, punishing some, not punishing others, this NCAA is going to either not exist or it's going to look drastically different. We're 6 years into that prediction. Okay? 6 years from that prediction. And we have the transfer portal with little to no parameters. We have realignment with little to no parameters. We have poaching amongst conferences with little to no parameters. We have poaching amongst coaches for student athletes and schools for coaches with little to no parameters. We have your word not meaning anything. We have your name on a dotted line not meaning anything. And we have this money situation with name, image, and likeness where there is so much money involved that Brock Purdy playing in the Super Bowl last year was making less money than a college football quarterback. So how do we fix it? Well, Pandora's box was open. But what I wrote in my letter, and you can go back and see it on wakeupcalldt.com's articles page, is I ended it by saying, if you don't put a fence around the barn, you will have to chase down the horses every night. And what we're seeing in today's college football and college basketball and collegiate athletics in general is that we have to chase the horses every night. And some coaches saw it coming. Randy Edsall saw it coming way early on the horizon. But Randy Edsall, think about the coaches that I have seen go, that I've built relationships with, that I respect. Coach K, Roy Williams, Tony Bennett, Jim Boeheim, Jay Wright, Randy Edsall. I had the opportunity of interviewing Nick Saban. I didn't think he would leave. And so, you see these moments, and it makes me pause. And PJ, I don't know if you know this, Tony Bennett retired from being the head coach of Virginia men's basketball about a week, not even a week, from when I asked him this question. I said, Tony, at the ACC tip-off, and you can go back and see it on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, where a lot of you are right now. Click on our ACC playlist, and you can see my conversation with Tony Bennett. I asked Tony, you are a guy who builds teams. You're a guy who brings players on, and they wait their turn, and then they take the role, and then the other guy waits their turn. I said, can you build, grow, and develop a team the way that you typically do, the way that you want to? in today's collegiate athletic climate? I asked him that question, and he retired within a week later, referencing, the world that we live in. So the reality of it all, PJ, is we're losing good coaches. Student athletes aren't learning about life. They're not taking responsibility. They're not facing adversity. They're running from their problems. Money is the most important thing to some of them. Education is an afterthought. What are we doing to society when we're forcing good coaches out? We're training players to only care about themselves, and we're not teaching anybody education anymore.
Very well said, and you're exactly right. And there is no answer right now, because these kids, they stay home on the weekends if they're not playing, and they look at the television on Sunday, and they see these NFL guys playing and showing off, making a tackle. Hello, right here I am. And they dress like them, they talk like them, they look like them, and they want to be like them. And it's all because of money. And they're not thinking about whether they get hurt. If they blow a knee out, it's not going to get any better for them. What are they going to do with their life? They're not thinking that far in advance because they don't care. They look at the money, and that's where it stops. Mr. Bennett, great coach. Yeah. Should never have left the game under these circumstances. Never. Boheim's another one. Look at Saban. We can probably list 20 guys that have already left their colleges or left out because they don't like what's happening. And if you're recruiting a kid and you come into Alabama and coach at Saban's trying to sell a little old lady at the kitchen table, and the kid says, "Coach, how much money am I going to make on NIL?" Coach Saban is saying, "I don't know, I guess. If you play, I guess you do well. If you don't play, maybe you don't make any money." He says, "Well, if I don't play, I'm not coming to your school." That's what they talk. That's the way they think. And we're not going to change it, Daniel, until the NCAA in their infinite wisdom does something about it. They're too old. They're too lazy with the rules and everything. Everything is laissez-faire. Everything's all over the place. The NCAA has been a joke for years. You've called it several times on the show, which is absolutely correct. We go from four teams in a playoff to 12 teams in a playoff. Everything's a mess. There is no answer. Maybe the NCAA should just disband themselves, and every conference should have their own deal. That'd probably be the best way. I'd love to see the SEC play the Big Ten every year, but that means the other colleges and the other conferences don't get a chance to play anything. Yeah. But, they maybe have to hustle themselves. But if you had the SEC and the Big Ten playing each other every year, you make a hell of a lot of money. You got a lot of players stay because they can play and they can make money and maybe go to NFL. But if they stay, they actually got to go to class and finish their term papers and go to school. I mean, geez, you hear some of these guys talk on the radio or on the TV, and you say these kids not learning anything, about life, like you say, life in general. What am I going to do when I'm 30 years old when I can't play football anymore? Or 25 years old? The basketball guys, the basketball coaches got it really hard because they only have about 12 or 13 guys on a team. Some of them have 15, but mostly 12 or 13. They only play about 10. If one star player says he's leaving in the portal, that blows your whole season. Yeah. What do you do then? Well, there's no answer.
Look at Syracuse. Syracuse Orange men's basketball, they have almost an entire new team. We look at Syracuse's roster, and it's insane to think this, especially the way Jim Boeheim had built his programs, and freshmen didn't play. Carmelo Anthony, people forget this. Carmelo Anthony was an enigma. Boeheim doesn't play freshmen. Carmelo Anthony was one of those guys who's like, okay, he decided to play Carmelo the year that they won the national championship, but Boeheim doesn't typically play freshmen. And in Boeheim's last few seasons, he was losing 3 to 5 players a season to the portal. I look at the team this year for Syracuse Orange men's basketball. Kyle Cuff returned. So I'm going to do returnees to non-returnees, okay? I'm going to tell you the names of the guys that came back. Kyle Cuff, J.J. Starling, Chris Bell, that's 3 so far. Naheem McLeod, who was injured last year, that's 4. Chance Westry, who didn't play last year, that's 5. and then there's a bunch of guys that only play during, if Syracuse is up by 30 points or whatever. Here's the new guys. Eddie Lampkin Jr., Jair Davis, that's 2. Elijah Moore, 3. Petar Mastorovich, 4. Jaquan Carlos, 5. Lucas Taylor, 6. Donnie Freeman, 7. So you got these 7 guys that have come onto the team that are new. That's a starting 5 plus 2. J.J. Starling's out right now. So the only recognizable faces that Syracuse has, and keep in mind this for Syracuse men's basketball, Kyle Cuff Jr. barely played last year. I think he's an asset to Syracuse, but he barely played last year. Naheem McLeod hardly played because he got hurt. So you got Chris Bell and J.J. Starling as returning starters. J.J.'s injured right now. So if you look at Syracuse's team right now in this moment, they have 1 starter that's healthy from last year that's still on the team. 1, Chris Bell. So how do you build, like you said, to your point, how do you build a team? And when you talk about the educational side of it, didn't Stetson Bennett say at Georgia, didn't he laugh and say, I've been here 5 years and I still don't have a bachelor's degree? If I'm going to say that in public and I'm the NCAA, I'm investigating that immediately. Your starting quarterback doesn't have a degree, but we're not going to investigate Georgia. Who investigates Georgia? So the reality of it all to me is that, yes, and on the educational side of it, you're a teacher, alum. Mary's a teacher, alum. You know the importance of education. I know the importance of education. I look back at my education at Christian Brothers Academy for high school. I was so prepared for college that when I got to Marywood University, I felt like the schooling, in a lot of ways, was the same. My classes in high school felt like my classes in college because I got such a good education at CBA that I was so ready. I got a 3.93 in my major, probably would have gotten a 4.0 if I didn't have my tonsils out in the last, month of school or a couple months of school. I got a 3.93 in digital media and broadcasting. And then you look at overall, I had a 3.82 out of 4 over 4 years with liberal arts and everything else that I did. I know the importance of education. I started a business. So when you look at these student athletes and you say, what are you going to do after football? You went to 7 classes in 4 years. What are you going to do after football? And one of your classes was yoga. I mean, what's your plan? And they say, well, I'm going to coach, or I'm gonna go to the NFL. I'm gonna coach. I'm going to try and do personal training and this and that, because a lot of them want to stay around the game, but they don't have the education. They don't have the background to build a business. They don't have the amount of hours in to be a personal trainer. They don't know the ins and outs of certain things. And I don't like that because a lot of these guys are my friends. A lot of these guys I care about. But what I will say about Syracuse University is these guys do get an education. They do go to school. They do, when they're done, and so many of them come back on the show, they do have aspirations and things that they want to accomplish. And some of them have been incredibly successful. I can't say that about every school. I can't say that about every situation. But at least in my hometown, I do feel like there's something being done scholastically, at least, which is important. But it does frustrate me to no end, PJ, that we don't talk about education. To your point of the SEC and the Big Ten, that was another prediction that you remember I made during COVID. I said the SEC is going to go off on its own. Then when the Big Ten got USC and Oklahoma, I said, okay, when they got Oregon, or they got USC and UCLA, then when they got Oregon and Washington, I said, I see what the Big Ten's doing. They want to join the SEC when the SEC creates its own league outside of the NCAA. And the Big Ten, what they did was, and I put a map up, the SEC, if you looked at the country, had the southern middle and the southeast. The Big Ten had the Midwest and the Northeast, and then they went and got the West Coast. The only area that they didn't have was Utah, Idaho, Arizona, like that area where you don't typically see national champions. So if they could pull in Clemson and Florida State to the SEC and get Notre Dame to the Big Ten, they already get a Big Ten advantage in the polls anyways. If they put them all together, then you have all the major schools, and the SEC and the Big Ten can play out their season, play within their conference, then have a conference tournament. Here's the SEC champion. Here's the Big Ten champion. They play each other for the national championship. And who's going to not say that that's a true national champion with brands like Penn State, Ohio State, Texas, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Florida State, Clemson, Florida, LSU, Alabama, Auburn, and so on and so forth. Oregon. We're talking about a national champion. I still believe that the SEC at any given time is going to do that, and the Big Ten. And for people that say to me, still to this day, even though the chips continue to fall that way, Dan, you're crazy. Wasn't there something floating out there about expanding the college football playoff to 14 and giving the Big Ten and the SEC an automatic bid every single year, regardless of their record? Why do you think they're trying to appease the Big Ten and the SEC so much? Because if the college football playoff doesn't play nice with those two conferences, they're going to lose them both.
Very well said and true. I often wonder, and I probably should research this on my own, and I will. The Ivy League is the best league, frankly, in the world. The best professors, the best schools, the best programs. You don't get the best kids, but those kids go to school. Imagine if you're recruited by Harvard to play football. You're going to go to Harvard to get an education and play football. And you come home one day after your freshman year and say, Dad, I can't handle this anymore. I'm not playing. I got to transfer out. And your father's going to say, what in the hell's the matter with you? Why would you say something like that when you got a $200,000 education staring you in the face? Why would you do that? Well, Dad, I know I'm good enough. I know I can play. I'm going to transfer to Alabama. I know I can play, and I'm going to get drafted for the pros. Son, you're not thinking right. You're wrong. How many of these kids are wrong from the Ivy League? I don't think so. There's more kids going into the Ivy League from the transfer portal than I believe. I'm not sure, and I don't have the stats to back it up. I'm not sure that Cornell or Yale or Harvard have kids leave for the portal. I just don't see that. And we're beating a dead horse with these kids, Daniel. There's no way you can talk any sense to them because they have dollar signs in front of them. That's all.
Well, and there is something that's interesting here, a new development. I'm happy you brought up the Ivy League because it was a perfect segue. The Ivy League is going to start competing in the FCS playoffs. So
yes, I saw that.
Inside of Division I AA football, the FBS is Division I-A. That's when we talk about the college football playoff and all that. Division I AA, a.k.a. the FCS, a.k.a. the football championship subdivision, we're going to see the opportunity for an Ivy League school to play for a national championship now. What does that mean to you?
They're not going to have the kids to do that. All right, let's look at something that you just viewed this weekend. The Saudi Army-Navy game. I watched it. It was absolutely brilliant. Those guys were killing themselves out there. They were making plays. It was amazing to watch. And the fans and the cadets in the stands were going crazy. Now, those kids typically don't get a scholarship to go to Army or Navy. And you have to work your way through. I sent you an article about saying that we don't sleep like you because they only have 5 hours of sleep a night. In the morning, they're up. They go to class, football. At night, they're studying, writing papers and so on. It's amazing to see. It was a great game. And I'm looking at some really, really good players, but they're not NFL material. But they sure look good on television playing. They don't have big offensive linemen or defensive linemen, but to both teams together just look to me like a real good football team and game. And I just love watching it. And I think that I thought we saw Army creep up the polls this last year, and they didn't do well the last couple of games, and Navy beat them upside the head. So Army almost made the top 12, but frankly they would have been smashed whoever they played. And these teams have got to stay in the area that they play. Navy, Army, Air Force, and the Ivy League has to play within themselves. the Ivy League steps out of the Ivy League to go for a national championship. If they say that, and I did see that and read it, if they say that, that means their whole recruiting process is going to change, because they're going to bring in kids to play football with a 2.0 average. That's what they're going to do, and that's going to screw things up. Now, I can't see that coming. I'm pissed that they would say something like that or even think about it, because they're not putting a pencil to it. They're not saying that, if we bring in 10 kids that weigh 300 pounds, we got a good offensive and defensive line and some skilled players, and we can compete. Yeah, because they got a 2.0 ERA or average, and they're going to play football for an Ivy League school for a championship. Ain't going to happen, Daniel. Not going to happen.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like you said, you got to bring in the education side of it. You got to make sure that that's taken care of. That's what the Ivy League is known for, and you don't want to ruin your tradition in the efforts of trying to win a championship. That's the whole win by any means necessary thing that I've never supported. So, but I mean, to the Army-Navy side of it, I think Army should have been in the college football playoff in the spot of Indiana. You look at their records; they're both 11-1. Indiana didn't play for a conference championship. Army did. Army blew out a good Tulane team. And they talk about, you talk about Army and their bodies aren't as big and this, that, and whatever. Tulane's got some big body dudes. Tulane's got a good team. Tulane's got some guys that are still on that team from when they beat Caleb Williams and USC when I was at the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic a couple seasons ago. So to me, beating Tulane is no slouch by any stretch of the imagination. I think an 11-1 Army should get in there. And if they lose, they lose. I mean, we look at Notre Dame and Indiana. I mean, Notre Dame's been embarrassed the only two times they've been in the college football playoff. Indiana, how are they going to play against Notre Dame? If Notre Dame is as good as people think they are, by the way, Notre Dame had 10 home games out of 12 games this year. That must be nice. 10 home games. I'm sure Syracuse fans would love to be in the Dome 10 out of 12 times instead of 6 or 7. So, and that's what I said. It's the Big Ten schedule. Ohio State had 8 home games a few years ago. Must be nice. 5 at home to start the season. So by the time they play in a road game, it's like almost the middle of October. So, when you look at Notre Dame and you look at Indiana, okay, if Army were to play in one of these games and they lose, can they score less than 0? Ohio State scored 0 against Clemson. Can they be embarrassed more than Notre Dame the last 2 times around? Maybe they lose by more. I mean, we look at remember the national championship last year? We were so excited, PJ. We were watching it together. That game was over in the first 7 minutes. Like, I mean, right. It's you look at the national championship, you say some of the semifinal games were better. So you never know what's going to happen. But I think this year Army earned the right to be in there instead of having a 4th Big Ten team. I think people can agree with me. You don't need a third of the college football playoff being the Big Ten. Gosh forbid you let Army in and let them represent themselves. And hopefully Boise State makes a push. Hopefully they do some big things here. PJ and I are going to predict the college football playoff bracket right after this. So stay tuned, because on your screen is going to be this. PJ is going to give his picks. I'm going to give mine, and it is going to get interesting because neither one of us has told you what we think is going to happen with the college football playoff until this morning. But with the game starting this weekend, it is time to put our feet to the fire. We'll do that after this fast break. PJ, don't be saying stuff off the air, yelling and screaming. We got to put these commercials on here. We'll be back right after this. Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Brian and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Brian and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Brian's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Brian's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Here is a special message from Brian Bruno, owner of Servomation Refreshments Incorporated.
I grew up in the family business, had the experience of working for a national food service company with thousands of employees, and as much as I enjoyed the experience I had, there's something about, owning my own company and being able to change the things I saw wrong with the industry firsthand, which is why I moved back to my hometown in Canastota, New York, to launch Servomation. It was back in 2007. When we first started the business in 2007, really you didn't find any machines with credit card readers. There was a lack of variety in machines. You got stuck with basically whatever the vending company wanted to sell that day. There was a lot of inefficiencies in the business, and those were all things that we saw as opportunities, both from a customer level to improve and from an operating level to be more efficient. We've really been at the forefront of introducing retail technology into our space. We were doing self-checkout back in 2009 before it really became a national phenomenon. The whole point of it isn't to just improve the customer experience. It's to make it feel more like a retail environment where people don't have to be afraid of what they're buying behind glass. They don't have to be afraid of not being able to see the ingredients of the packages. It was an easy transaction from that standpoint. If we were to reinvent something, we wanted to make sure what we were making looked and felt more like a deli and not like something that you would traditionally see in a vending machine. I was tired of hearing for years the customers say the wheel of death because the vending machine would circle around with the same tuna salad in it. What we wanted to do was it really changed the perception of that food. So allowing customers to touch it, allowing customers to feel the weight of it, allowing customers to see the freshness of it, and also the variety of it really helps them change the perception and ultimately the value of what we bring to them. The point of differentiation you have to make is either in value or the quality. And I think on both of those fronts, Servomation has really, in large part, changed that value system for employees. So they no longer have to worry about bringing their food from home or having to leave their desk during the day and rush out to get back in time for their break to end. We're bringing something that they can count on in their break room every day, and they know it's going to be there, they know it's going to be fresh, and they don't have to worry about it being sold out or something that they don't enjoy. We've also heavily invested in flavored water machines, so you can get a glass of water with a fresh piece of fruit in it, along with bean to cup coffee machines. So there's not a day that goes by we're not surprised when we get customers that call us and say, we didn't know you could do all this. We're really lucky to have a strong group of dedicated employees. Most of our employees have been with us since inception. They're family to us, and people like doing business with people they like and trust. And I think the same thing goes for employees. In a day and an age where there's a lot of corporations that just look at an employee as a number and don't get to know them, that's just not the way I was raised or how I like to do business. So we're a little old-fashioned. We like getting close to our employees. We like knowing how we can help them. We like knowing how we can improve their lives, adjust their schedules, whatever it may be to help improve their quality of life. And we think in the end that makes for a happier employee. We're fortunate enough to have really grown over the last several years, and from Pennsylvania to Massachusetts to Connecticut, we really do have a strong connection, even though we're not in the rooms every day with these employees. There's not one single employee that we feel like we don't know, and certainly we know they can call us at any time, and they're definitely treated as family to us. I wake up every single day really excited to surprise our customers in a good way. The one thing I can tell you is I think that every one of our employees and every one of our customers will continue to be at the forefront of every decision we make.
Find out how Servomation can help you and your business by going to servomation.com.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York is your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. You could find them Tuesday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, and on Sundays from 10 to 5 with football, basketball, baseball, soccer, hockey, Disney, Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, singles, graded cards, packs, boxes, one-of-ones, rookie patch, autos. So many amazing things at GG Cards and Breaks. If you're a card collector, this is your new home away from home. And if you've never collected before, well, the day to open up the seal on that is today. Go and buy a pack. Go and get a box at GG Cards and Breaks. Get something for your loved ones for Christmas. It's the gift that keeps on giving, because if you buy somebody packs and boxes and whatnot, then they open up the gift, and then they get to open up the gift within the gift, and you never know what you're going to get. So head to GG Cards and Breaks today. Give the gift that keeps on giving, and that is this collection that we can have of incredible sports cards and trading cards. It brings you closer to the game, closer to your teams, and there's just something special about it. I can look at any card in my studio and be like, yeah, this is where I got it. That's how crazy it is. I can't remember what I had for lunch, but I can remember where I got a sports card. Go to GG Cards and Breaks today, 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. We look forward to seeing you there Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6, and on Sundays from 10 to 5. Papa Joe and I are doing this right now, the college football playoff. It is happening. We are going to be making our predictions. The college football playoff historic expansion to 12 has put us in a place where we have never seen 12 teams compete for the Division 1A FBS National Championship before. We had the BCS, which was 2 teams. We had the college football playoff come out initially for its first decade, which was 4 teams. And now we have the college football playoff at 12 teams. I will defer to Papa Joe, who will be the first to do it here, as he makes his decisions on who is going to get through this college football playoff and be our first expanded national champion. So, with that being said, I defer to Papa Joe, and I will start at the top of the bracket in the first round. Number 5, Texas, up against number 12, Clemson. What do you got, PJ? Who's winning the game?
Okay, Daniel, just a minute. I don't want to interrupt what you're saying.
Yeah.
But just what we just harped about for the last hour, Tulane and Army, a good football game. Tulane lost but goes to a bowl. What is the starting quarterback does? They leaves.
Yeah.
Now Florida's playing Tulane. Now Florida's going to be an overwhelming favorite because Tulane lost their quarterback because he didn't want to play anymore and he had to go somewhere else. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I'm glad Florida's a favorite. I think they'll probably win a game easy, but it would have been a lot more difficult if the kids stayed in school. All right, Clemson and Texas. You're asking me Clemson, Texas.
Yeah.
Clemson is in this deal because of a wish. They are not that good of a team. Dabo Sweeney's defense is not the way it should be and always hasn't been. Ewers from Texas can fling the ball all over the place. He may not even be the best quarterback that Texas has because Arch Manning is just as good. But the fact is that Texas has played a very difficult schedule. They're a good defensive team, and they can score. So with that said, I said Texas wins easy that game.
All right, so PJ going with Texas. I got it circled on the board for you, PJ. And so Ohio State and Tennessee, what do you got for the 8-9 matchup that will be played in Ohio?
Surprised to see Ohio State lose a couple of games this year because they probably had to do it outside their stadium. Tennessee played really well in a tough conference. I think that the scheduling works out well for Tennessee here. I think they played better than Ohio State in their conferences, and I think Tennessee's a better team, period.
So PJ's got Tennessee in the 8-9 matchup. This game I will be at. I will be covering the college football playoff once again, above all, by the grace and thanks be to God for this. Awesome people under God that have given me the opportunity. Thanks to the college football playoff. Thank you to the wonderful schools that I cover. Thank you to the Bulls that I built relationships with that I cover as well. I will be at this game. This game is going to be this Saturday, December 21st at noon Eastern time in University Park, Pennsylvania. SMU, the 11, at number 6, Penn State. What do you got, PJ?
I think Penn State is grossly overrated this year. SMU maybe a little bit overrated. And I watched SMU play just a couple of games. I watched a couple of snippets from Penn State because I don't particularly like their program. I think they're really overrated. The only problem I have with this game is that I'm not really comfortable with either one of these teams. But I'm going to have to pick something. So I'm going to say Penn State at home.
All right, PJ going with Penn State in this one, the number 6 seed, and then number 10 seeded Indiana up against number 7 seeded Notre Dame. What do you got?
You're probably going to jump all over this one, aren't you? Indiana, I just read about their coach. He did a hell of a job. Indiana's where they've never, ever been and probably won't be again. But they're just going to be overmatched here. I think that Notre Dame probably wins.
Yeah, PJ going to go with Notre Dame in this matchup. Notre Dame playing at home in front of touchdown Jesus. So PJ going with Notre Dame in this. That brings us to our quarterfinals. You have Texas versus Arizona State. So I'm going to go ahead and add Texas in there, PJ. Who are you picking for this, Texas or Arizona State? That game I will also be at, and that is the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, by the grace of God. So what do you have, Texas and Arizona State?
I watched Arizona State win their conference. Damn, they're fast. Well, they're a serious team. But I think that they're not going to be good as Texas. But Arizona State deserves to be in this formula here because they really, really look good to me. But I like Texas.
PJ going to go with Texas to keep it rocking and rolling here. I thought Texas for a long time this season was the second best team in the country. PJ's got Texas making it to the Final Four on that bracket line. Then you had Tennessee advancing to face off against the Oregon Ducks, the Volunteers. Who wins this game between Tennessee and Oregon?
Other than Georgia playing Oregon, I think this is the one team that could probably match up with Oregon with speed. Oregon's so fast off the ball. But I like Oregon in this game.
PJ going with the only undefeated team in America in the FBS of 130 plus. Going to go with Oregon to move on to face off against Texas here. So we got Oregon moving on. Next one that we have, Penn State, you have advancing to play against Boise State. Who wins this game between Boise State, who's in the Mountain West, but soon to be part of the new Pac-12? What do you got, PJ?
Well, it's good to see Boise State. I watched them a couple of times this year. The running back certainly probably should have won the Heisman Trophy. If it wasn't for loudmouth Deion Sanders, he probably would have won it. He's a sensational player, and I don't see Penn State stopping this kid. I think this kid can run for 200 yards. Boise State controls the ball. They pass frequently. They're just an all-around good offensive team. Defense-wise, they're a little shaky, but I think they score enough points to beat Penn State.
So PJ going to go with Boise State in this one to move on here. The Boise State Broncos going on to the Final Four, the first time they've ever been allowed in a national championship opportunity. And then we have Notre Dame going up against Georgia. PJ, what do we got for this one?
Well, I'm licking my chops on this one too. This is one game I wanted to see if it all shakes down like this. I want to see just how good Georgia is. Georgia's got a quarterback problem with Carson Beck. May or may not play because of an injury. And the kid that they brought in, Gunnar Stockton, looked like he's got a big gun. I mean, they didn't miss it back. He's got a better arm than Beck. This is one game I really want to see, but I like Georgia.
AJ going with Georgia to move on here. Georgia taking over the spot that Texas would have had, but Georgia is the only team to beat Texas this season, and they did it twice. So Georgia moving on here for PJ. So just to recap here in PJ's bracket, he has Texas and Arizona State playing in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. He has Tennessee going up against Oregon in the Rose Bowl. He has Penn State facing Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl, and Notre Dame facing off against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, which leads us to the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, which, God willing, I will be there for that, college football playoff semi. And then we have the Capital One Orange Bowl. The Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic will see in PJ's bracket, it'll see Texas against Oregon, and for the Orange Bowl, we will see Boise State and Georgia. Cotton Bowl, PJ, what do you got? Texas and Oregon, arguably the two best teams in the country at multiple points this season, are going to face off against each other. Someone's going to the national championship. Who's it going to be?
This is from a gambler's standpoint. This is probably a pick'em game. Frankly, it's going to be a wide open offensive game because Oregon doesn't play defense too often, but they better play defense to score against Texas. The fact remains is that I think Oregon is the better team in this situation. So I like Oregon.
PJ going with Oregon to win this matchup here and head off to the first ever national championship that comes from a 12-team playoff. That's also going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, the home of the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. So we got Oregon advancing to the national championship for Papa Joe, and PJ in the Capital One Orange Bowl, Boise State, Georgia. Boise State's got orange in their jerseys. Do they win the Orange Bowl, or does it go to the Big Red Dogs? Does it go to Georgia?
Boise State is really outclassed in this game. They probably haven't faced a defense like Georgia this year. And with that being said, if, again, this is a gambler's talking here, with Carson Beck playing or isn't he playing? So the guys are not going to be wanting to play wager on this game until they know what's happening. I think if Carson Beck plays, they win the game. If their Gunnar Stockton plays, they win the game. I still like Georgia.
PJ going with Georgia. They go to the national championship out of the Orange Bowl, which leaves in PJ's bracket Georgia and Oregon playing for the national championship at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I've been there a bunch of times. Here's a cool fact for you to put in your pocket and save for next season. The College Football Playoff 2024-25 season will end in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. And then it will begin in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia next year when Syracuse takes on Tennessee in the Aflac kickoff game that is hosted by Peach Bowl Inc. So very excited for that. So where it ends is where it'll begin for my hometown of Syracuse next year. Oregon, Georgia, who wins the first ever 12-team playoff national championship?
Well, Oregon can certainly score points, but they're not going to score at will against a team like Georgia. Georgia wills themselves, no pun intended, over a team. They just physically, their defensive front line is just awesome. And Kirby Smart does what he does. I mean, he wins, and he somehow recruits players, and they don't want to leave Georgia, and they still play for Georgia. And I think Georgia wins a championship, Daniel.
PJ going with Georgia to win the national championship, to hand Oregon their first loss of the season, coming in the last game of the season for the Oregon Ducks. PJ is signing this Georgia, so I'm going to go ahead and circle Georgia on PJ's thing here and give it a star. That is PJ's bracket here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. I'm going to save this bracket because, as you know, folks, we always put our brackets up here, and then we put our picks up here, we save them, and then we live by those picks. So PJ's picks are up here on the board, and now I'm going to clear the board and do my picks for Tortora, where sports meets life. So let me make sure we got PJ's all saved and ready to go, and so we will bring these up as we go through the bracket and see how PJ and I fare as time goes on here. So I'm going to go ahead and save his picks. We're going to clear this, and we're going to go on to mine. So my picks for the college football playoff are happening now here on Wake Up Call. Here we go. So with that being said, as we jump into these picks, I have my first one here, and I'm going to go ahead and put my DT thing up here. So for those of you that are just tuning in, you can see that these are my picks that are going to be going on. PJ can watch along with you, and you can all see it. So here it goes with my picks for this college football playoff 12 team for the first time ever. First game, this is a tough game. I think this game is going to be tougher for these two teams than their next round game against Arizona State. And that's no offense to Arizona State by any stretch of the imagination. I think this Clemson-Texas game is going to be more difficult for the Clemson-Texas. This is going to be a more difficult game for whoever comes out of it than the next game that they play, which is up against Arizona State. I am going to go with, and this is really hard for me because it's hard for me to go against Dabo. And Dabo, they got 3 losses. They got in. Syracuse got him in the famous words of Syracuse head coach Fran Brown, "What's up, Dabo Sweeney? I got you in," because he got him into the ACC championship by beating Miami, which opened the door for Clemson to win, and they took advantage of the opportunity, and they did it. And as Dabo said, with God and a little help from Syracuse. So it was nice to hear him say that. So it's hard for me to not pick Clemson. I would love to see Clemson. Forgive me, Dabo, if you make it to the Peach Bowl and you see me there. But I got to go with Texas in this matchup to win the game. I got to go with the Longhorns to move on to face off against Arizona State in the Peach Bowl. Next game up, Ohio State and Tennessee. This was the game where you look at this and say, home field advantage. You know, home field advantage in general helps teams out, but a home field in this one could definitely be the difference in the game for OHIO. Tennessee, Josh Heupel, a lot of respect, spent time with him at UCF. I think Tennessee is underrated. I think Tennessee is one of those teams that's performed well. And Ohio State wouldn't see a team like Tennessee because they don't challenge themselves in the non-conference play. So with that being said, I'm going to go with Tennessee to win this game. I think this is going to be a challenging game for Ohio State. They don't play games like this typically in their season, and they play them in the postseason. I got Tennessee moving on to face off against Oregon. SMU and Penn State, man, do I want SMU. Man, do I want them Stangs to come in and take down the Lions for everything that Rhett Lashley has done, for all the disrespect this team has had this season, despite going undefeated in the regular season, their first season in the ACC, playing for an ACC championship at their first season in the ACC, losing by a last-second field goal, coming back in a game where people thought the game was over before we even got to halftime. Never count out Rhett Lashley and them SMU Stangs. So SMU is going to play Penn State at Penn State. And Papa Joe, I'm going to have a grin on my face, and I might have to not show it because there's going to be 100,000 people there at Penn State that are not going to be grinning. Give me SMU to move on here and face off against Boise State. No, this is not a hate for the Big Ten. Get off of that horse.
All right,
folks.
good job, good job.
Yeah, get off of that horse, folks. It's not a hate for the Big Ten. It's respect for SMU. SMU, Boise State. The only thing that's sad about that matchup for me is that both teams can't make it to the Final Four. I'd love it if they could. Two schools that would never have gotten this opportunity in a lot of cases, especially not in the BCS. So shout out to SMU and Boise State for getting in. They both earned it, and I'm excited to see them play. Notre Dame and Indiana, the game of why are they here? So,
I like that. I like that.
You look at Indiana and you say to yourself, okay, I'm happy that they went 11-1. They never go 11-1. It's great to see them be 11-1, and I'm very proud for Indiana to get to where they've gotten to. However, based on their schedule and who they don't play and what they did do, their claim to fame is that they lost to the only ranked team that they played besides Illinois. So I'm not a big fan of Indiana being in this spot. Notre Dame, it has been shown that if they go 11-1 or 12-0, they're going to play. They're going to be in the college football playoff, whether there's 4 or there's 12. That's what it is. I talked to a commissioner off the air about this, and he said to me, he's like, Dan, it's literally like written. Like if they're in this situation, then they're good. Like it's written that they're covered. They go 11-1 or 12-0, they're in good shape. I'm not saying Notre Dame hasn't had a pretty good season. They did lose to a team in Northern Illinois that probably was ranked 80 going into the game, and they did that game in South Bend. I just want to remind people of that because of the fact of if Syracuse lost to Northern Illinois, they wouldn't be ranked for the next 5 years. So looking at Notre Dame, yes, they beat Texas A&M. And if those of you are going, they beat Army, well, then that's stating that Army was a good team. And they probably should be playing Army again in this thing, or Army should be playing Texas, and then somebody else should be finagling around in this. But ultimately, for me, Notre Dame has not proven themselves yet again. I do like the win over Texas A&M. The win over Army was substantial for me because I consider Army a good team. So I do respect Notre Dame for those two victories. Outside of that, looking at the rest of their season, am I wowed? No, they don't play for a conference championship, so they're never going to be penalized by losing a conference championship or not playing in one, which I think is an unfair advantage that UConn's never going to get being an independent. So should Notre Dame be in it this year? I agree that they should be in. I do agree they should be in. I do. They went 11-1. They should be in. They're playing Indiana, who I don't think necessarily should be in. And I think that Notre Dame is going to get the victory here. Notre Dame will move on to play up against Georgia. So that means in my bracket, playing in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which I'll be at, God willing here, we have Texas against Arizona State. In the Rose Bowl, in my bracket, Tennessee and Oregon. In the Fiesta Bowl, SMU and Boise State. And in the Sugar Bowl, we have Notre Dame and Georgia. Texas against Arizona State. Like I told you, I think that Texas-Clemson matchup is going to be a more difficult game in the first round than either one of those teams will get advancing to the second round. It's no offense to Arizona State. I just think Clemson and Texas is a tougher game for those teams. I think Texas is going to be moving on here. And is this thing not going to let me draw the way I want it to? No. Okay. So we're going to clear it, and then I'm going to attempt to draw again. So I'm going to go with, okay. The whiteboard is being rude to me. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the whiteboard back up here. And like I said, for my picks, I'm going with in those first 4 games, as I will circle them for you again. Somebody from Notre Dame or Indiana must have gotten into the feed and messed with the stuff, but I'm going to go with, so my picks here, once again, putting that up here for you so that you know that they're coming from me. DT's picks, and I'm going to go ahead and write that on the top of the screen for you. And I'm going to circle them. So I got Texas, I got Tennessee, I got SMU, and I got Notre Dame. And so Texas going up against Arizona State in the Peach Bowl. I got Texas winning that game. Tennessee going up against Oregon. I think Tennessee is going to give a good effort here. I'm not going to be surprised if Tennessee wins this game, but I'm going to pick Oregon. Selfishly, I want to see Texas and Oregon because I'll be at the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, God willing, and to have the opportunity to see what I consider to be the 2 best teams in the country during the season. I don't necessarily believe that right now, but I did believe that Oregon and Texas were the 2 best teams in the country for a while. So getting to see them duke it out and decide who's the better team, I think that's going to be cool. SMU and Boise State. This game's going to be interesting, but boy, Ashton Jeanty, I hope he breaks Barry Sanders' record. I got Ashton Jeanty and the Boise State Broncos moving on. I picked Ashton Jeanty to be the Maxwell Player of the Year. I got to vote in a bunch of different national things this year, national awards this year. I want to thank the Football Writers Association of America and everything that I got to vote in. Truly appreciate it. I voted for Ashton Jeanty for the Maxwell Award for Player of the Year. I voted for Travis Hunter for the Defensive Player of the Year. So, Jeanty, I am so excited for you and hoping the best for you. And I think they're going to take down SMU. Notre Dame going up against Georgia. Well, if you were eavesdropping on a conversation I've had over the last couple of days, you would hear me say that as much as people counted them out, the one team that I think can win this thing above everybody, Georgia. I got Georgia moving on to face off against Boise State. Never count out Kirby Smart. His last name shows you that he ain't that stupid. He knows what he's doing. So with that being said, we got Texas and Oregon. This game is extremely difficult for me to pick, but I think Texas is going to run out of gas here, and I'm going to have Oregon moving on to face off in the national championship at Mercedes-Benz Stadium down in Atlanta, Georgia, for our first national champion coming from a 12-team playoff. And Boise State or Georgia, boy, would I like to pick the Broncos. Could I pick the Broncos? Let me just say something about Georgia. They went 8 overtimes to Georgia Tech. They won that game. Then they go into the SEC championship against Texas. They go to overtime. They win that game. They are the overtime champions. They're the extra period top team in the country. When it comes to playing extra time, Georgia is going to get you. They are a dangerous team. They can run the ball. And even if they don't have Carson Beck, they know what they're doing. He came in with a lame arm. He's got his right arm down at his side, hands the ball off to the left, and they win the game. That's how good they are. They can run. But you know who can run better than Georgia? Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty can run better than a Mercedes-Benz. He can run better than a Mustang. He can run better than an Aston Martin, than a Jaguar. This man can run better than any hot rod PJ has ever had in his garage. So what am I going to do, folks? What could I possibly do? Could I pick Boise State? Do I think the man that can run for over 200 yards and then do a backflip on the field has more energy to give? If it comes down to Georgia running and Ashton Jeanty and the Broncos running, who the heck can win the Capital One Orange Bowl? Man, Georgia is so good. And Ashton Jeanty and the Broncos are so undeniably good. No one has been able to stop him. This is one of the most difficult games I've ever picked in my life. I really want Boise State to win this game. I do. But as an impartial broadcaster, I'm going with the team that keeps finding a way to win in overtime, Georgia. So I'm going to go with Georgia against Oregon, but let it be known and let the record show I really hope Boise State wins a national championship this year. And if
That's
they win
true.
a national championship,
That's true.
I'm going to buy all the gear. And Ashton Genty, Papa Joe, do you know what his hometown is?
Jacksonville, Florida, buddy.
And do you know
How did he do oversee Florida? Get this kid loose. How did they lose this kid being from Jacksonville, Florida? I can't believe that.
And my other question to you is, who's picking in the top 5 right now? The Jaguars. Should they take Mr. Ashton Genty?
I think yes. I think Travis Etienne has probably outlived his usefulness. And then I think that's a good point. Plus, we don't know because they're going to have a whole new staff there. Whole new general manager, whole new head coach, defensive coach, all the way down the line. I predict the Shad is going to get rid of everyone.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Jacksonville Jaguars, to be in another place of rebuilding, it's so frustrating. It's like whenever they make it to the playoffs, then they spend years rebuilding. It's insane. I don't understand it. I don't like it. I hope it gets better for the Jaguars. Oregon and Georgia. PJ, am I going to regret this, that I didn't pick Boise State? Because if Boise State plays Oregon again, remember, they lost to Oregon by 3 points this season. They can make it a game again. The problem with Georgia is it's Carson Beck. Is he going to start? Is the backup going to be okay? Can they do enough running the ball and bringing you down here? PJ, I don't know if, you know what? I got to live my life, PJ. I got to live my life. I'm going to live my life right now. I'm going to scribble on this thing right now. Give me Boise State to beat Georgia, because if Carson Beck's not 100% healthy, that's a danger zone. And I'm going to go for broke here. I'm going to say, let's do it. I'm going to say, let's go. I don't care if I'm wrong, because when I'm right, nobody gives me credit. And when I'm wrong, everyone, oh, Dan, I saw your bracket. Well, you didn't see my bracket when it was right. Boise State wins a national championship. Who cares? I do. Why? Because Ashton Genty's amazing. Boise State works hard. They got the Smurf turf. Oregon's ripe for a loss. Georgia's got an injured quarterback. Notre Dame is here as a 7 seed. We don't know why. Indiana made the party, but nobody invited them. So this is where we are right now. I'm going with Boise State to win a national championship. Why? Because I said so. If it's Georgia, then it's Georgia. If it's not, then it's Boise State. Because if Boise State gets a rematch with Oregon, Boise State's going to win the game. And why doesn't the world of college football want to see a rematch between Oregon and Boise State? I'm going with the Broncos to blow this whole thing up. That's what I want to see.
Oh, you got a lot of couillons, son. You got a lot of couillons.
Hey, let it fly. You know what, PJ? I would easily pick Georgia, but my concern is Carson Beck. Because if that injury catches up with them against Notre Dame, if it catches up with them against Boise State, they're in trouble.
Well, let me tell you, the talk down here is that Gunnar Stockton's a better quarterback.
Well, we'll see.
Think about that now. This kid's going to be there for another 2 years. After this game, he's going to be there 2 years, and Georgia's going to be just as good every year. This kid's no doubter.
Yeah, no. Greg said that must pain me right down my soul to say that. What was the thing that I said that pained me down to my soul, Greg? I want to know. Probably. Oh, why? Because I picked Notre Dame? See, Greg thinks I don't like Notre Dame, and he thinks I don't like the Big Ten. All I said is that they have an unfair advantage. I've never said I didn't like them. I've never said I don't respect them. And if you were in a conversation with me and my buddy Jim Sikowski yesterday, I do have respect for Notre Dame. I have respect for Notre Dame very much so. I just want them year by year to earn it. I don't want it to just come to them. That's all I said. That's all I ever say, is that I want them to earn it. Not because Rudy was a good movie, not because they were good back in the day. I want them to earn it. They went 11-1, and I think beating, you have to admit that Army was a good team in order to put them in the college football playoff. To me, you have to admit that Army was a good team. Because if you don't admit that Army was a good team, then there's no reason to put them in the college football playoff this year. Because they had one win over Texas A&M, who didn't make the college football playoff, and they had a loss against Northern Illinois, who didn't even make their conference championship game, and they didn't have a good season. So that's all I'm saying. I got no disrespect for the Big Ten, none for Notre Dame. All it is I'm happy Indiana won. Who would have thought Indiana would ever go 11-1? Their football team has struggled for a really long time. They've been in the basement of the Big Ten. I'm extremely happy for them. But being happy for them is versus did they deserve to make it? and I don't think they earned the right to make it this year. I'm just happy that they got to 11-1. So I'm going to go with Boise State over Oregon, but I mean, I very much could see Georgia over Oregon. So that's and Greg said I'll get my flowers if Boise State wins. Greg, I'm still waiting for my flowers from 2016 with SU in the Final Four. I'm waiting for my flowers in my prediction in the NCAA. I'm waiting for my flowers in my prediction in realignment. I'm waiting for a lot of flowers right now that I haven't gotten yet. Who is there on the screen right by you? Who was that?
Peek in, Mary.
Is that MT?
Peek in. Here she comes. Here she comes, Daniel.
There's MT. Hi, MT. So the very amazing, wonderful MT. By the way, everything that Papa Joe says, MT checks it first to make sure spelling's right, all that stuff is good, that we're ready to go. So with that being said, PJ, we got to see how we did in the bowl games. This is what I love, and I've never had you on screen with your face to say this. PJ, do you care about the bowl game, all the bowl games that are outside of the playoff?
No.
Always appreciate PJ here. Now, we got our picks. These are our bowl picks that went up here. And so in the Army-Navy game, we both chose Army. We both got that wrong. I'm sorry, Brian Newberry, don't look at that. And so those are the games that we got wrong. And then when we go back and look to the games that happened before that, we'll take a look at the games that were prior here, these bowl games. So Georgia Southern and Sam Houston. Let's see. Did we go for that? We didn't do that game, did we? I don't think we did that game. Oh, no, that's December 9th. That's today. We did do that game. We picked that game. So Jackson State over South Carolina State, the old home of Deion Sanders, won. So we got that one wrong. PJ and I 0 for 2 to start off the bowls. Then we were wrong with South Alabama and Western Michigan. Oh my gosh, 0 for 3. But we got Memphis right. Memphis went out there and beat West Virginia. So once again, another feather in the cap of the Memphis Tigers. Will they be respected? Probably not, but they should be. And then California lost to UNLV. We got that wrong. Who played in the Boca Raton Bowl? You know who played there last year? Syracuse, with a lot of players injured and a coaching staff that was gone. You know the irony? Bob Chesney could have been the head coach of the Syracuse Orange, but Fran Brown got the job. Where's Bob Chesney now? James Madison. Who played in the bowl game in Boca Raton last year? Syracuse. Who plays in it this year? James Madison. So Syracuse was there a season before the coach that was almost their coach, and when he went there, he won. That's how small the world is in sports. James Madison gets the victory. I picked Sam Houston for tonight. That game's not done yet. PJ, because that game will happen at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. PJ picked Georgia Southern. So PJ, you went 2-4, and I went 2-4.
It's terrible.
Yeah, that's not.
That is terrible.
That is not good by any stretch of the imagination. PJ and I.
Well, pundits are never right. You know that.
Yeah. Well, when we are right, see, this is what I know about life. When I'm wrong, somebody will tell me. When I'm right, they'll not tell me. They won't give me credit, but they'll take credit themselves. It's awesome when other media outlets and other people are like, "I said that." And I'm like, "No, you didn't." But when I say it, it's usually buried somewhere. So I'm gonna put it out here. And if I pick Boise State. If I'm right, then like Greg said, I'm gonna get my flowers. So bowl season for 2024-25, PJ and I have started this thing off 2-4, which is gross. Hopefully we can change that. So I'm going to go ahead and put that up. We're going to pick some more bowl games that Papa Joe has already told you he may not be watching. PJ, are you going to watch the Holiday Bowl for Syracuse? Are you going to watch that one?
Who are they playing?
Washington State, who lost 22 players and their head coach.
Oh my goodness, I like Syracuse.
So PJ and I are gonna pick some more bowl games here this morning on Wake Up Call, and of course I'll defer to my better half here on the show as we pick these games. So the games we got coming up here, PJ, Ohio, who played Syracuse. By the way, for people that thought that win over Ohio at the beginning of the season means nothing to Syracuse, means nothing to Fran Brown, let me remind you that Ohio was, I think, a back-to-back 10-win team, and then they just went and won their conference. So give Ohio their flowers. They're now a 10-win team, I think, 3 years in a row. So Syracuse didn't play any slouch of the MAC. By the way, who's in the MAC? Ohio. Who's also in the MAC? Northern Illinois. Syracuse played Ohio and beat them, and Ohio's a 10-win team 3 years in a row, and they won the MAC. Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame. What was Northern Illinois' record this season? 7-5, went 4-4 in the MAC. So Syracuse beat a better MAC team at home. Notre Dame lost to a MAC team at home. Just to remind everybody that that team is playing in the college football playoff, and Syracuse is going to the West Coast to play a road game against a team that's worse than them. So tell me how that makes sense. Make it make sense, baby girl. So with that being said, PJ, I would love for you to pick this game. Ohio going up against, I love asking him these questions because he's told me repeatedly that there's too many bowl games and he doesn't care. So Ohio going up against Jacksonville State, who beat FSU, don't let Mary hear this, in the last couple of years. Who's winning the Cure Bowl down in Florida, PJ, Ohio or Jacksonville State?
I think Ohio's earned the right to be there, and I think they're a better team. So stick with them.
Yeah. PJ's going with the OHIO in a different place, and he's going with Ohio to win over Jacksonville State. I'm going to go with Ohio as well. I respect them. They had an incredible season after losing to Syracuse. They only lost 2 other times in their next 11 games. So shout out to them for that. Tulane in Florida in the Gasparilla Bowl, not in the Gator Bowl. They're playing in the Gasparilla Bowl. Sounds like somebody got 2 teeth, little corn hanging out their mouth. Do you know about Gasparilla? Oh, yeah, that's my cousin. Who's winning in this game, PJ, Florida or Tulane?
Do I even have to say it, Daniel, for crying out loud? I just feel bad that Tulane lost their quarterback, but their coach has done a hell of a job this year, and frankly, he was one of the coaches that were up for the UNC job that BB got, and he declined to even be talked to him because he wanted to stay at Tulane, but he just needs better players. I don't think he's going to see better players when he sees Florida.
Yeah, PJ going with go.
Gators.
There it is.
Go Gators.
There it is. So, yeah, so looking at this, PJ's going with go Gators against Tulane. Tulane, I mean, they said that they might lose their quarterback. They're losing their quarterback. This is what I don't like about the transfer portal is that Tulane finds a diamond in the rough and then someone who probably didn't even recruit him goes and steals them away. I'm going with Florida. They had a good back half of the season. If Florida played an entire season the way they played the second half of the season, then they'd be in really good shape. By the way, to shout out the Gators even more, apparently all their athletic director had to do was put out a letter saying that their head coach was staying. Since he put that letter out, the team started playing a heck of a lot better. So shout out to them for that. I'm going go Gators on this. As much as I love Tulane, I'm very pissed off that they don't have their quarterback. Here's one this is in the FCS, baby girl. This is in the semis of the FCS, and we're going to go ahead and pick these two, Papa Joe. South Dakota State, North Dakota State. The Dakotas are really, really good when it comes to football, and they are up there in the FCS every year. South Dakota State, North Dakota State. Who's winning this one, PJ?
Every year you read about these two teams. And every year you don't hear them playing anybody any good. But when they play each other, it's a ball. I watch them because it's wide open. I like North Dakota State.
Yeah. PJ's going North Dakota State. I'm going to go, this one's tough. The Dakotas, when they play each other, it's always good. But I'm going to go with the Bison. I'm going to go with North Dakota State as well. This is a tough game, and anybody who's not watching this game or never watched this game, turn it on this year. Watch it.
Yeah.
Okay? The FCS, they've been doing a playoff for a million years, and they do it right. The college football playoff, the FBS could learn from them. The FCS semifinals, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, they're both 12-2. It's going to be a great game. I'm excited. And how about this? South Dakota has an opportunity to make the FCS national championship. they have a 50% chance of making it to the championship because South Dakota State's playing North Dakota State, but South Dakota is playing Montana State. They're 11-2. Montana State's 13-0. Who wins this other semi of the FCS, PJ? The state of South Dakota has 2 games that they could get into this thing. They could have an all South Dakota national championship. Does South Dakota defeat Montana State, or does Montana State stay undefeated?
I like Montana State.
Yeah, PJ going with Montana State in this one. I'm also going with Montana State, and it makes me sad because I want South Dakota to get one team in here. But I'm gonna go with Montana as well. They're undefeated, and their games are on television too, folks. Behooves you to turn them on and watch some of these games. That's in the FCS. So we got North Dakota State going up against Montana State for the FCS championship. And outside of that, PJ, we got a few other games to pick before Christmas here because we will be on break. Coastal Carolina and UTSA. Coastal Carolina, a good old team in the Sun Belt. UTSA fought their way to 6-6. They're typically a better team. This year they struggled a bit. They're trying to find their way. What do you got for them, UTSA or Coastal Carolina?
You know, I don't like 6-6 teams in bowls. It just doesn't make sense to me. But there's so many bowls. There's so many poor teams out there that they got to somehow find 6-6 teams. Just think, if they lose this game, they're 6-7 for the year. Yeah. That means you're losing record for the year, but you still went to a bowl. I don't know. I like USDA.
Yeah, PJ going with UTSA in the Myrtle Beach Bowl, so it's going to be a home game for Coastal Carolina, essentially, because they're down in South Kakalaki. But PJ is going to go with UTSA. And PJ, I've been in those seasons where Syracuse ends the season 6-7, and they're like, how the hell they end the season with a losing record because they lost in a bowl game after getting there at 6-6. They don't have to worry about that this year, thanks to Fran Brown and the crew. So looking at UTSA, Coastal Carolina, knowing that it's a home game for Coastal Carolina, this is a tough one for me. They're going to have a lot of fans there. UTSA, they've had a rough season. They've had a rough go at it. I'm going with Coastal Carolina to win the game here in Myrtle Beach at the Myrtle Beach Bowl. Next game we got up, PJ. This is PJ's favorite bowl game of the season. This is his favorite, beyond a doubt. It doesn't matter who plays in it, but guess who's playing in it? Northern Illinois. Guess who they beat? Notre Dame. And they're going up against Fresno State. What is the name of the bowl? The famous Idaho Potato Bowl. What do we got, PJ?
Isn't it ridiculous we're talking about the stupid names of these bowls? I mean, I don't know. They must have a lot of money because they're paying these kids a couple $100,000 a year to play. Northern Illinois has the pedigree because of the Notre Dame game, so I'm gonna stay with the pedigree.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of people that eat meat and potatoes. That's what keeps the famous Idaho Potato Bowl going. I'm going with Northern Illinois in this game as well, and so PJ and I going with Northern Illinois to end their season with 8 wins, folks. Shout out to them. Don't ever let it go quietly into the night that they went to South Bend and they got a victory. That's not to knock Notre Dame. That's the probably biggest feather in the cap of Northern Illinois ever. So give them some love, give them some flowers. Notre Dame's in the college football playoff, the only team that beat them the entire season, the Northern Illinois squad. So shout out to Northern Illinois and those Huskies. The next game we have up, PJ, before we jump off to the NFL, we're going to take a fast break after this and go to the NFL. But before we do that, we got a few more games to hit here that are going to be coming up. Let me see what we got. Oh, here we go. We have this is a Christmas Eve Bowl. I don't know if PJ's ready for this one. South Florida and San Jose State in the Hawaii Bowl. They're playing over on the islands of Hawaii on Christmas Eve. What's the temperature in Hawaii on Christmas Eve? 92. So, PJ, we got South Florida, San Jose State. My guy over in South Florida, Alex Golish, he's been there 2 years as a head coach and 2 years in a bowl game. Won a bowl game against Syracuse last year. Is he going to win this one?
Yes, he will. I like South Carolina. By the way, it's 82 degrees down here, Daniel.
It's nice for you, PJ. I just kicked some dusty snow when I was going outside this morning. So PJ's going with South Florida. I'm also going with South Florida. So look at that, Florida and South Florida right next to each other. And the next one that we got going on here is going to be, there's no game on Christmas, thank goodness. There's a game on December 26th. Pittsburgh, who had a good start to their season. They went undefeated for a while, then they struggled. They blew out Syracuse. Total embarrassment game. I know that Fran's going to want to give it right back next year when Pittsburgh comes to the Dome. Now, Pittsburgh's going up against Toledo. They're both 7-5. This is going to be in the game above Sports Bowl. Aren't they all Sports Bowls? Who do you have for this one, PJ?
I think Pitt's schedule was much better, tougher. They did have some good quality wins, and I think they win it. Frankly, I think this won't be a competitive game. I think Pitt wins this easy.
So PJ going with Pittsburgh. I'm also going with Pittsburgh. I agree with you. I think that they're going to end their season with 8 wins. Pat Narduzzi, a season that didn't start off great, and the guy still gets to 8 wins. He's had like one bad season the entire time he's been at Pitt. Love covering him, love talking to him. And by the way, Pat Narduzzi, a card-carrying Italian, I don't know who makes his suits, but they are some of the nicest suits in the world. I don't know who dresses you, Narduzzi, but they dress you well. Rutgers up against Kansas State. Kansas State has been ranked in the polls. They lose to an unranked team, they're back in the top 20. They lose to another ranked team, they're in the top 20. They were in the top 20 before they lost to an unranked team. They lost to 3 unranked teams and were still in the top 20 somehow this year. Their season is 8-4. Rutgers is 7-5. Greg Schiano and Kansas State are going to be going up against each other in the Rate Bowl. Probably the shortest name bowl in anything. Rate Bowl. That's all it is. Rate Bowl. So what are you rating?
What are they rating?
What are the ratings for the Rate Bowl? What do you got? Rutgers, Kansas State.
I like Kansas State.
PJ going Kansas State over Greg Schiano. I'm going to go with Rutgers in this one because Kansas State, I mean, it boggles my mind what this team was considered a top 20 team over and over and over again. They keep losing. Syracuse got in the top 25 at the end of the season when they beat what, 3 ranked teams this year, including Miami, who was ranked in the top 10, mind you, 6th at the time. The next game that we have is the Arkansas State Bowling Green game. 2 7-5 teams playing in the 68 Ventures Bowl. Papa Joe, will they combine to score 68 points?
It would be a terrible game, Daniel, but you got to pick one winner. So I want to say Bowling Green.
Yeah. PJ with his words here. PJ going with Bowling Green. I'm also going to go with BGSU here. I'm going to go with Bowling Green to win this game. The former home of former Syracuse head coach Dino Babers. Going Bowling Green as well. On Friday, December 27th, we have Oklahoma going up against Navy. I'm really excited for this game. This game is huge. The Navy midshipman head football coach who I spent a lot of time with, Brian Newberry, was just with him at the Army-Navy game. Those interviews are going to be going up this week. Had the opportunity to speak with him there. Have a lot of respect for Brian Newberry and have talked to him the entire time he's been the Navy midshipman head coach. He's got ties back to Oklahoma from his stomping grounds of growing up. The Sooners are 6-6. Navy's 9-3, coming off a win over Army in the Army-Navy game. This is the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Who wins this one, PJ?
Well, Navy showed me something this weekend, this past weekend, beating Army with a better quarterback, frankly. I thought the kid from Army was going to run for a couple hundred yards at quarterback. They stuffed him pretty good. Didn't even get 3 yards to Gary. Their quarterback, I forgot his name, but anyway, looked really good. But Navy isn't supposed to play teams like Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma should be a better team than this. I think that them coming into the SEC, I think probably woke them up a little bit. But I do think that Oklahoma has enough to win this game. I think Navy is reaching for it on this game.
PJ is going to go with Oklahoma in the matchup. I'm going to go with the Navy midshipmen. The Navy midshipmen showed me something in the way that they played up against Army. This is a team that has been counted out all season long, and count them out again, and I think they're going to get a victory. Oklahoma, they got some feathers in their caps this year from some things that they've done, but Oklahoma also didn't have a great season. So I'm going to go with Navy to win this game. It would be a massive win for the American over the SEC. Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt. Georgia Tech played spoiler this season, and so did Vandy. Vandy, you can argue, kept Alabama out of the college football playoff. Georgia Tech, you can argue, helped keep Miami out of it. What do you got, PJ?
It'll be a good game, real competitive with these guys. I'm vacillating a little bit because I think it's a pick'em game. But Vanderbilt did show me a lot this year. From the SEC, I like them.
Yeah, I got to go with Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt beat Auburn at Auburn for the first time ever in their history, and they beat Alabama this season. Give me some Vanderbilt Commodores winning this game. By the way, the new athletics director, the new head of athletics, which is technically called the VP of Intercollegiate Athletics and Campus Recreation at Lemoyne, guess where he's coming from? Vanderbilt. So Phil Brown going with the Commodores to win this one. Looking forward to him seeing this. So what did I say to Greg? Greg said, how about 5-7 teams in bowl games? And I wrote, awesome. Greg, I was being facetious. I hope you know that. So my next one here, Texas Tech, Arkansas. In the autos, oh, by the way, the Birmingham Bowl is Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt. And so the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, Texas Tech and Arkansas. Who gonna win from Arkansas, the home of the Clintons, right? That's where they lived until
Right.
Hillary Clinton pretended that she was a resident of New York. What do we have for this one, Texas Tech or Arkansas?
I like Texas Tech, I guess. I'm not going to watch these kind of games, Daniel. You know, I may tune them in to grab a score every once in a while, but these games are not interesting to me. I know they got to fill how many bowls? They got 50 bowls. They got to pick 100 teams or something like that.
40 some odd bowls. Yeah.
I get they gotta have the bowls. So the nondescript teams are going to make the bowls. They're going to be fun for the players that are there, fun to the alumni. Without me ranting, I'll take Arkansas.
So PJ is going to go with Arkansas. Okay, so I thought PJ was going Texas Tech. That's what I thought he said there. So let me scratch that and scribble. I want to scribble that out there. Put some Arkansas on there for PJ. I'm also going to go with Arkansas to win this game. And we got just a couple more because I know that PJ's just, you know, he's gonna start yelling at me now. so we got USC, Texas A&M. Texas A&M had themselves a season at times, but also struggled. They were 8-4. USC 6-6 with Lincoln Riley in his second season there. In the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl, what do we have for this one, PJ? USC or Texas A&M?
You skipped over Syracuse, Washington State.
Because I'm doing it last, PJ. It's
okay. My bad.
It's the build-up, PJ. It's for the build-up.
Texas A&M. Okay, Texas A&M versus USC.
Yeah.
Well, Texas A&M and USC. Lincoln Riley's really gotten his ass handed to him over there, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But they still love him. But Texas A&M runs this one.
Yeah, PJ going to go with TAMU. I'm also going with Texas A&M. And shout out to Mike Elko in his first season over there as their head coach. After doing good things at Duke, he was at Texas A&M as the defensive coordinator under Jimbo Fisher. And then he comes to Duke. He has 2 good seasons at Duke. And then Jimbo gets let go, and he goes back to Texas A&M as their head coach, and he's doing a good job. Mike Elko, shout out to him. Love the fact that I got to talk to him. Hope I get to talk to him again soon. I'm going with Texas A&M. Syracuse, Washington State. What I don't like about this is Syracuse is 21 in the college football playoff. They're ranked in the AP, the CFP, and in the coaches poll. However, they're playing a team that's not ranked, that's 8-4, that played in a conference that had 2 teams this year in the Pac-12, and yet Washington State has a home game on the West Coast. How only Syracuse would they do this? Well, they do it to UCF as well. But Syracuse, to be 21 in the country, play an unranked team, and get sent to the other side of the country to play a road game. Only, they do it to Syracuse all the time. They screw them over, but Fran Brown's going to make them pay. Syracuse, Washington State. I'll be out there in San Diego for the first time ever. I'm very excited. I'm leaving the day after Christmas, and I'm going to take my first West Coast flight all the way to the other side, and I can now say that I've been coast to coast, baby. I'm very excited about it. Going to San Diego to see Syracuse take on Washington State. Who will win this game, PJ? The Syracuse Orange or the Washington State Cougars, who don't have their head coach and are missing 22 players?
Isn't that terrible to say? Isn't that? Now, Syracuse should be favored in this game anyway, but with Washington State going through the trouble as they are, this is the problem we have in the sports, Daniel. This is the problem we have. The NCT has got to address it. They better address it soon, because this game, frankly, well, Fran Brown is going to be an embarrassment, because he's going to romp over these guys, and Washington State's going to limp back. They're going to say they're going to cry foul, and they should cry foul. So, look, NCAA, wake up and look and see what's happening here. This isn't right, Syracuse.
Yeah. I got to go with the Syracuse Orange in this one. By the way, how about this? No one, I heard this from the coaching staff at the dart party last night, no one on Syracuse's roster has opted out of the bowl game. No one.
Great job. Great job.
So, awesome stuff to hear. I'm going with Syracuse, going out to the West Coast to San Diego to see this game. Those are our bowl picks. PJ told me that him and MT are actually going out to Walmart after the show today to buy more televisions so that Papa Joe can watch every game picture in picture in picture in picture in picture in picture.
Oh, geez. You're dreaming, buddy. But you're right. I will. But I will keep up with them. I mean, that's why I got ESPN running 6 hours a day. Yep, it'll be fun.
Yeah, so PJ is, so on YouTube TV, you can have picture in picture in picture in picture, but in order for him to watch every single game, he is going to purchase more televisions, and he has actually put a petition into the NCAA to add more bowl games for 2025. So with that being said, we're going to take a step aside. We'll be back to talk NFL and unleash PJ on Major League Baseball in just a couple moments. So you will hear from our wonderful partners, and then PJ and I will be back right after this. Stay with us. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. He kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily, and we bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here. which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
And welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Papa Joe is here with me, as always, on a Thursday. And, of course, this time we're making history as you see Papa Joe's face on the screen here with us. So, PJ, before we get to the NFL, I'm going to unleash you on Major League Baseball. I know there's some notes you wanted to make. There's some things you wanted to say. So I want to give you the opportunity to say those here this morning as we get things rocking and rolling into the NFL in just a moment. I do want to take some time for baseball. We've talked about football all throughout the show. So we're going to go from one field to the next, and then we'll head back to football. So, PJ, what are your thoughts in the baseball world of some of these moves that have been going on?
Well, this is the hot stove league, as I explained to you. Years ago, when the owners didn't have a lot of money, they'd sit around and BS and drink whiskey by the fireplace and come up with some trades. So that's why it's called the hot stove league. Now, of course, it's wide open, and even though the teams are not playing, there's a lot of deals to be done. I haven't got all the deals that I want to talk about, but I do want to mention the big one, which I think we did last week, which was Juan Soto going to the Mets for 15 years, $765 million monopoly money. Doesn't make any sense to me. The Mets must have a hell of a contract with the New York City cable company, because I don't know how anyone can afford this, or Ohtani, or anyone else. Mac Fried from the Yankees has signed for something like $265 million for a left-handed pitcher. You know, come on. I keep bitching about it every time we talk about it. Willie Adames from my Brewers. My Brewers couldn't afford $182 million, so Willie signs with the San Francisco Giants, who replaced a real super quarterback, Brandon Crawford, who got a shot to be in the Hall of Fame. He's excellent over the years for San Francisco. I think he won 3 World Series with them. So Willie's going to have to come up with some really good play to replace Brandon Crawford, but he really is. In the New York City, we got a little bit of a vice versa here. Clay Holmes from the Yankees goes to the New York Mets. 3 years, $38 million. Clay Holmes has proves himself this year. He was the stopper that the Yankees needed. And now they're going to lose him. Now they're going to bring someone else. So who do they bring in? They bring in, the kid from Milwaukee. I'll think about that in a minute. That'll be a good one. Luis Severino used to be with the Mets, used to be with the Phillies. Now he's with the Athletics for 3 years, $67 million. He's a frontline starter. Usually goes 6-7 innings every game. Super. Really good player here, Tommy Edman from the Dodgers. You saw him play. Good utility man.
Yeah.
So how did the utility man, Daniel, get $74 million for 3 years?
Yeah.
The guy hit just barely above the Mendoza line, but he can play 8 positions. So, what's the deal? Blake Snell signed with the Dodgers for 5 years, $182 million. He was 5-3 last year with a 3.12 ERA. I remember Blake Snell when he was with the Tampa Bay Rays, when he was actually a nobody, but he was a good nobody because he won 1 Cy Young Award there, and of course he's a multi-Cy Young Award winner. Michael Wacha of KC signed for 3 years, $51 million. Mike Wacha is a good frontline pitcher. 13-8 last year, 3.35 ERA. There are some other trades that I want to get into, Daniel. but it would take us a whole show to do it. So that's just a review of maybe what I said last week.
Well, you look at the Yankees, what they added, like you said, Max Fried in the pitching side of things and some other pitchers that I had mentioned earlier on here. We also saw that the Yankees have added the 2019 National League MVP from the Dodgers, who went on to the Cubs, Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger, in his couple seasons with the Cubs, played in 130 games in 2023, 130 in 2024. He had 95 runs in 2023. He had 153 hits, and then this past season, 72 runs, 137 hits, 97 RBIs in 2023, 78 in 2024. So we'll see. He was batting .307 in 2023, Bellinger was, and .266 in 2024. And going back to his time with the Dodgers back in 2019 when he was National League MVP, he batted .305. He had 121 runs, 170 hits in that season in 156 games played. So Cody Bellinger joining the Yankees as well. And so there's some good things happening. PJ, should we feel good about the Yankees right now?
Well, the left-handed pitcher coming in, Fried, is gonna make the frontline starters much better. Besides Garrett Cole, they traded away my main man, Nestor Cortez. Nasty Nestor, they called him. Left-handed nasty Nestor. So they got rid of him. I don't know why, because he was a stopper on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
He was a sort of a mid-range guy. Started every once in a while. Pitched the middle innings. Wasn't a closer. So, with Fried coming in, you got a lefty-righty combination of Cole and Fried, which should ease some of the work for the bullpen. Instead of going to the bullpen in the third inning or fourth inning, maybe these guys can get 6 or 7 innings, and that's why they bring Fried in. Plus, he's a lefty, and all lefties are nasty, Daniel. They got all sorts of curves and sliders and drops and drops now they call them split balls.
Yeah.
Split fastballs. I used to call them a spitball back then when they would put a hawk on your the ball and ball would move. But that's a good it's good for the Yankees. I think they're probably going to lose Gleyber Torres with free agency, and I think they're probably going to lose Anthony Rizzo in free agency. So the Yankees have got a little bit more work to do, but getting Cody Bellinger was serious. I think what they'll do with Bellinger is I think they'll put Bellinger in center field and move Judge over to right field. I'm not sure Judge is happy about that, but Bellinger's a better center fielder, and Bellinger's tall.
Yeah.
He's not as tall as Judge. I think he's about 6'5", but he plays a mean center field.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how the Yankees do this, but trying to bring in some bat help and trying to bring in some pitching help. The pitching part of it is the thing I think they needed the most in the offseason after seeing how they got exposed against the Dodgers. We'll see what happens from here with the Yankees. I know Pinstripe fans are excited and also angry that Juan Soto decided to switch boroughs, and I don't think there's ever a good time in New York City or the New York area to switch a borough, to go from one to the other. Well, I'm going to leave the Bronx. Where are you going? You better be going to San Diego. No, I'm going to Queens. Oh, okay. So it's going to be interesting there, but excited to see Juan Soto in some orange stripes for sure. With that being said,
the train from one to the other.
From one to the other. That's what we're doing. PJ and I made our picks for Week 15 in the NFL. Let's see how we did. So for our picks inside of the NFL Week 15, hard to believe we're already at Week 16, but this is where we're at. So taking a look at how Week 15 went for us both in the Thursday night football game for Week 15, PJ and I, we looked at that Rams-Niners game. The Niners have been struggling, and so I went with the Rams. PJ went with the Niners. The game was 12-6. What a gross game. And so the Rams end up winning that game. Next game we got up, Chiefs over Browns, Bengals over Titans. We had those, so I'm going to go ahead and circle those games as well. And then Washington and Baltimore, we had the Commanders who won by just a point on the road in New Orleans against the Saints 20-19. And the Ravens defeated the Giants in a replay of the Super Bowl that Trent Dilfer won over Kerry Collins. That was 35-14 that they won the game this time around. And so Baltimore won it before, and Baltimore won it again with a different quarterback. Then we have Dallas and Carolina. Dallas came to play in Carolina. PJ picked them 30-14. I thought Carolina was going to get the win, so we got that wrong. Jacksonville had a valiant effort against the Jets. They scored 25, but the Jets scored 32, so Jacksonville loses that game. Houston, 20-12 over the Dolphins. They hold the Dolphins down in this one. Tua did have a touchdown in the game. Nico Collins, man, it's so good for Houston to have him back. He's still the number one guy there. God bless him and working his butt off, and I appreciate it and respect it, and I see you. 31-13, the Broncos take down the Colts, and Bo Nix continues to impress. Who predicted Bo Nix was going to be good? PJ. Who else said something about Bo Nix being a starting quarterback before he was a starting quarterback, and then said he was going to have the second best rookie season next to Jaden Daniels? I forgot was it on a show called Wake Up Call? What was that guy's name? I can't remember for the life of me. Denver wins that game. Detroit, Rock City. What happened? The Bills go to Detroit, and they beat Detroit in Motor City 48-42. Let's pause here for a second, PJ. How good are the Buffalo Bills if they're beating Detroit in a shootout 48-42?
Based on what I saw this last Sunday, the Sunday before when Josh Allen played was the best game I ever saw. This game was one of the best games I ever saw. Josh Allen can't be stopped. There's a lot of talk from the other pundits saying that he's a slam dunk for the MVP. But if you look at what he's done compared to Lamar Jackson's got better stats, except Lamar Jackson's not winning as much. Now, if you say that, then you have to say that Josh Allen is the better player this year and deserves MVP because they're going to be in the playoffs. Baltimore will be in the playoffs too, but they're going to be wounded if Lamar Jackson does not play his best football. He's got a stud tight end who set a record for their franchise, 50 TD pass. Did Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson's sort of like the Mahomes-Kels deal when it comes to tight ends. It was a great game. I was surprised that Buffalo scored so many points, but that's the NFL. It's not for long.
Yeah. That's the thing. So Detroit still think, as I said all throughout the season, that they're a Super Bowl caliber team. Buffalo working to do the same thing. And I said Buffalo has gotten a ton of hype for the last 3 years. This year not having as much hype could be the best thing for them. It seems like the hype didn't help. And now not having the hype, the team's playing better. So maybe Buffalo fans, don't say anything. Just cheer, be excited, but don't predict anything. Just enjoy the ride. So with that being said, live in the moment. That's what they always tell me to do. That's what Mom and Dad say. So we got the Bills, so we got that one wrong for Detroit. The battle for Pennsylvania, PJ and I picked the wrong side. We picked Pittsburgh, which some Philly fans say, Pittsburgh's not in Pennsylvania, they're in Ohio. That's what some people say. That's how they knock them there. Pittsburgh loses the game. PJ went with New England, and I went with Arizona, and Arizona won that game. They had a strong showing here, winning 30-17. The Buccaneers over the Chargers. And PJ and I both thought that West Coast thing isn't really working anymore, PJ. Teams going out from the East to the West, not really working. Syracuse is 2-0 on the West Coast this season, trying to be 3-0. And these West Coast teams are not winning against the East Coast in the NFL anymore, as we saw Tampa get this victory 40-17. The Packers and the Seahawks. PJ went with the Seahawks. I went with the Packers. Why? Because I love Mary and I like getting fudge when I go home. So, so Minnesota. Also because I thought they were the better team. Minnesota over the Chicago Bears on the Monday night doubleheader. We both picked Lake Minnetonka there to get that victory, and the Raiders. The Raiders lose their game in a disgustingly awful showing, 15-9.
Right.
By the way, even though Atlanta won the game, they have decided at 7-7 and a shot for the playoffs that they're going to hand the ball to their backup quarterback and rookie Michael Penix Jr. from the Washington Huskies to take over for Kirk Cousins, who's had a rough go at it. PJ, what are your thoughts on Michael Penix and the Kirk Cousins thing? 7-7, the team's got a shot to make the playoffs, and they think they got a better chance to make it with their backup quarterback and their rookie who's never played a game.
don't know about that. I never got to watch Penix play that much because he played out from the West. And the only times I saw him, he looked pretty good. Plus, I don't know. He doesn't fit well with me. He's a lefty, and I don't know if he's going to get an introduction to the Hard Knocks this game or not. I don't know if he's going to have enough experience to even play well enough. But what Raheem Morris has done is he's actually tossed the season away because Kirk Cousins is a very, very good quarterback. I don't care what he's done the last couple of weeks. You don't sit Kirk Cousins. I mean, the guy is a minor. He's a could be Hall of Fame material. He's really, really good. He's passed for 1 million yards. Look at Morris makes the decision, so he's going to go with Penix. I wish him luck. I just don't think it's going to pan out for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to have – listen, he's playing the Giants. So I think he might have a career day, his first day in the NFL. We shall see. I think he's going to do some good things. I went 10-6 this week. PJ went 8-8. So in PJ's world, he wouldn't make a bowl game. But in the bowl game world, 8-8's good enough. So let's go to the picks for Week 16, PJ, while we round out today's broadcast. The first time you get to see PJ's face on the screen. That's right. So let's go to Week 16, PJ. In the NFL, we got Saturday games, so don't you miss these Saturday games, PJ. You better be watching SMU Penn State on Saturday at noon because your meatball number 2 is going to be there. Then you're free to watch whatever else you want. But Thursday, tonight, Broncos, Chargers. What do you got, PJ? Justin Herbert's a little banged up. What do we have for this one?
He may be banged up, but he can score some points. Bo Nix is having a hell of a year, which I liked him, of course, and I knew that he would be drafted higher, which he was. And you talk about him a lot, which is true. So he's done very well for himself. I think the Chargers have the better team.
PJ going with the Chargers in this matchup. Chargers are banged up too. They don't have J.K. Dobbins. Gus Edwards has to step up. Ladd McConkey is off the injury report, which is great for the rookie wide receiver who's had himself a nice start to his NFL career. But I'm going to go with the Broncos, and I'm going to look for them to continue to make a push toward the postseason. They're working. I respect it. They're 9-5, which is like so many more wins more than Jacksonville. But it's actually three times the wins of Jacksonville. Jacksonville has 3. So crazy. Saturday games, we got 2. Texans at the Chiefs, PJ. What do you got?
Well, CJ Stroud is going to get a lesson this week. Please, KC.
PJ going with Kansas City. They only got 1 loss this season. They could have other ones, but must be nice to have the refs throw a flag after you count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi on a 4th and 10 at the end of the game. So Kansas City got the PJ going with Kansas City for the victory. Houston, it's tough. I'm going to go with Kansas City as well because Houston's had some head-scratching moments this season for me. I thought they'd be better than 9-5. Steelers at the Ravens, the other Saturday game. What do you got?
This would be a pretty good defensive game right here. But I think that Lamar Jackson brings too much to the table. I think he'll probably throw to Andrews and a bunch of his wide receivers out there. And of course, if his running back gets going, you can forget about it. I think if Henry gets, to my opinion, if Henry gets over 100 yards, they win the game. They're probably going to do that anyway. So I like the Ravens.
Yeah, PJ going with the Ravens. Remember, Pittsburgh won last time, 18-16. Defensive game, low scoring. Ravens did not get the 2-point conversion at the end of the game. I think that they turn the tide here at home. And Baltimore's not trying to win again because they're trying to quote Edgar Allan Poe. They're going to look at Pittsburgh in this game and they're going to say, quoth us, the Ravens, nevermore. So I'm going with Baltimore to win this game in the matchup here late in the season. Baltimore needs it too because they're still fighting with the Steelers to see who's going to win the AFC North. Next game we got Giants-Falcons. Michael Penix Jr. will have his first ever game in the NFL. He'll be starting, and he will be at home. The Giants are so the opposite of good. What do you have for this one, PJ?
A terrible game this is going to be. Penix picked a good team to start with. Maybe that's what Morris was looking at. So I'm looking for the Falcons to win, whether Penix does well or not. But we'll see. We'll see what he looks like playing the position. Of course, he's not going to be playing a good team, so we don't know how good he's going to be under pressure. But he and the Falcons should win this game.
Yeah, I think Hotland is going to put up some points in this one. Maybe they'll finally throw the ball to Kyle Pitts. Go
Gators.
That's right.
Go Gators.
Go Gators. So
we haven't used him enough since they've got him.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
They've never utilized him. Not that much. Guy should be thrown to 10 times a game. He gets like 3 touchdowns a season. Lions at the Bears. Lions, they're licking their wounds from a loss at home to the Bills. The Bears, they've been wounded all season. What do you got, PJ?
The Lions, easy.
Yeah, I got the Lions in this one. Here's a game that's usually fun. The Browns at the Bengals. This is a divisional game in the AFC North. The Bengals are not having a great season. The Browns are having an awful season. So, PJ, what do you have for this one between these two? Will it be the Bengals or will it be the Browns when the Browns go to visit Cincinnati?
The Bengals still got a good chance to get into the playoffs. And Joe Burrow, I think, is almost over 4,000 yards already. So he can throw it around with Chase and Higgins running amok through backfields. I like the Bengals.
Yeah, I got to go with the Bengals in this one too. Guess who lost his starting job, PJ? Your best friend and brother from another mother, Jameis, my man, Jameis Winston.
He's an idiot.
so he had the starting job, PJ.
And he throws 9 million interceptions. Look how bad he was. Sure, 2 weekends ago he threw for 500 yards. This last week he doesn't get anything and throws 2 or 3 interceptions. That's life with Jameis, though.
Famous Jameis. The love relationship. Pete, he loves you, PJ, even if you don't love him. Titans at the Colts. What do you got?
What was that game?
Titans at the Colts.
Oh, yeah. Titans at the Colts. Well, the Titans are a major disappointment, and I guess Will Levis lost his job for a week at least. At least they're bringing in a guy who can play, Mason Rudolph. But the Colts with my main man, Anthony Richardson, Go Gators, should be able to prevail.
Yeah, listen, the Colts, they're not out of it mathematically, but the Titans gave up. They took away Ryan Tannehill, took his starting job, was going to give it to Malik Willis, took Malik Willis's and gave it to Will Levis, took Will Levis's and gave it to Mason Rudolph. So I'm going with Indianapolis to win this game and Anthony Richardson to do some good things. Next one that we got up here, PJ, is going to be the Rams at the Jets. The Rams are fighting for not only the playoffs, but they're fighting to win the NFC West because that division's so bad that 8-6 is good enough. The Jets, well, people were like, what's it going to look like to have Aaron Rodgers? And I told people, you can't just say we're going to the Super Bowl because you brought a guy in. You still got to play the games. Well, the Jets are 4-10 with Aaron Rodgers. What do you got, PJ?
Rodgers looked good against our Jaguars. And they scored 32 points. Our defense, I thought, was supposed to be much better than that. Really major disappointment last week. I was really upset about that game. But the Rams have more than enough to win this game.
Yeah, I'm going with the Rams. Eagles at Commanders. The Eagles are 12-2. Low key. I don't think a lot of people are talking about that. And the Commanders are 9-5. What do you got, PJ?
Defense wins this game for the Eagles.
PJ going with defense of Philadelphia to win this matchup. So we got the Rams over the Jets, the both of us, and the Commanders. The Commanders got to win this game. They have to win this game. They can't. I mean, they had such a good start to their season. They can't fade away like they've done in the past here. But I think Philly's going to get the win. I think Philly's going to get the victory. I hope I'm wrong for my brother and my other half to Tortora and Isaac Elford. I'm hoping that they win, brother. I was down in D.C. last week for Army-Navy, and Washington's back home at Northwest Stadium that they lent out to the Army-Navy game. They'll be hosting Philadelphia for this one. Cardinals at the Panthers. This game is circled on Papa Joe's schedule.
Oh, what a terrible game this is. I guess Brad Young is starting playing a little bit better for the Carolina. He's playing another short quarterback. I guess the short quarterbacks in this game don't like either one of these teams at all. I don't think that Arizona will keep their quarterback after this year. And I don't think Carolina's going to keep their quarterback after this year. So, but anyway, someone's got to win this game. But I like Zona.
Yeah, Arizona, they've struggled to be consistent in winning, games in a row or looking like a similar team in a row. I'm going to go with Arizona in this game because Dallas just beat Carolina, and I think Arizona's better than Dallas, at least offensively. They got a bunch of stuff that should be better, James Conner and Marvin Harrison Jr. and whatnot. I do like CeeDee Lamb with Dallas, but I'm going to go with Arizona. The Vikings at the Seahawks, PJ. I've said all year the Vikings are a playoff team, and they will be in. They're 12-2. What do you got?
Vikings still have a lot to play for because I think they're still trying to win the division from Detroit, and I think that would be a big feather in their cap. I don't know if they're better than Detroit, but they need to win this game, and they will.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Minnesota to win this game as well. Seattle's 12th man. Listen, I love the fans coming out there, and I love fans supporting, absolutely, and I hope that they continue to. But Seattle at home or on the road against a team like Minnesota, I think Minnesota's too much in this game. They got too much. They got a special caliber to them this year. Patriots at the Bills, PJ. What do you got?
Boy, Josh Allen should take the week off. I don't know if he will, but he's going to score enough. He'll score enough points to win this game real easy. I just don't know if they're going to give him a break. They could get ahead. They should be ahead in this game and then play some other players.
I agree with that. Buffalo, this should be the game where you get – this is like when Clemson plays Citadel. They should be able to sit and play some guys in the second half, hopefully, for the Bills fans. Jaguars at the
Raiders.
There we go.
Oh, Daniel, what a terrible, terrible football game this is. Oh, jeez. I got to say Jaguars because I'm a fair weather fan. I got to go for them. Yeah. But for the folks out there, it's a terrible game, and it's going to be telecast down here because that's where the region we're in, and that's what our television stations are going to play. Yep. So I'm going to have to watch the Jaguars lose, but I'm not. I think I like the Jags.
PJ going with the Jaguars. Brock Bowers is a nightmare. So, I mean, there's a lot with Bowers. Jacksonville should win this game. They should win this game. I think the Raiders are going to win the game, though. And the Raiders are the worst team in football right now. They have the number one pick. But I think the Raiders are going to win the game. Niners at the Dolphins. PJ, what do you got?
Super football game here. Brock Purdy should be enough. The Dolphins have got us. I don't know. The Dolphins are still hanging on. Both of these teams are still hanging on for a playoff. I think that the Niners have the better players. Maybe not better offensive players, but certainly defensive players. So I like the 49ers.
I feel like this game can get out of hand. And the Niners have struggled, but I think the Niners are going to win this game. I could see this game getting really out of hand in their favor. So I'm going to go with San Francisco to win the game. On the road, let's see how the West Coast does on the East Coast, with the East Coast doing much better on the West Coast in recent history. Buccaneers at Cowboys. This is Sunday Night Football. Baker Mayfield and his team are really good. Dallas has only won one game this season at home. Will they win this one?
No.
Nice, PJ. I love it. PJ going with Tampa. I'm also going with Tampa in this game. They got way too much talent. Dallas just doesn't like playing at home, and so I'm going with Tampa to win the game. Baker and the crew still got a shot. They are 8-6. Cowboys are 6-8. Monday Night Football. Saints at the Packers. What do you got for this one, PJ? Spencer Rattler is the quarterback for the Saints, and the Packers are healthy. They got Romeo Doubs doing his thing. They have Josh Jacobs and Jaden Reed, Jordan Love. What do you got?
Jordan Love has surpassed my expectations this year. I didn't like him as a quarterback a couple of years ago, even when he was backing up Rodgers. But he's come a long way, and I've changed my opinion of him because he can carry a team. And but the Packers are very good this year, and they're in a real super hard conference. You got Minnesota and Detroit and Green Bay all have super high winning records. That's great for a division. So I like Green Bay.
Yeah, Green Bay. I mean, best division in football, NFC North. Worst division in football, NFC West. So looking at this one, the Saints coming from the NFC South, which usually you can win by not winning that many games, and there's teams that are still alive there. I'm going with Green Bay, though, to get this victory. Green Bay's been playing well, and Jordan Love, he's exceeded my expectations as well. I guess my buddy Tim Lester was right, who was over there on the staff last year. He said, we know something about Jordan Love here, and fans are really excited out here about Jordan Love. So there was much more to him than people necessarily thought. And he said there was a lot of things to like about him, and he wasn't wrong. So with that being said, PJ and I have picked bowl games. We predicted the entire college football playoff 12-team bracket. We've given you NFL Week 16. We've spoken with you about baseball. We got into the opt-outs. We talked about the transfer portal. What other show in America or the world gave you all of that in all of this time? Papa Joe,
picture over here waving her arms saying, oh, I'm hungry. I got to have lunch.
Yeah. MT is ready.
We need 3 hours to talk about what we talked about, and I didn't even touch my baseball stuff yet. You don't know what I have for baseball.
Well,
so baseball's another whole show.
As we are less than a week from Christmas, I would like to wish Papa Joe, MT, Joey, my big brother. I want to wish Marissa, and I'm even going to wish Boom Boom a happy and Merry Christmas. And of course to Diana, to the kids, and everybody out there, a very Merry Christmas down south. PJ, the next time you and I talk, it'll be after Christmas. But I love the fact that for the first time ever, we made history once again on this show with you, and we got to show your face and your expressions. We love you, PJ.
Well, it was a ball. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Well, we'll talk with you
Merry
soon.
Christmas.
And MT, let the record show, MT, that I've supported Green Bay much more than your husband. So we'll talk with you soon. Take care.
Thank you, Dan.
Take care, of course.
Merry Christmas.
Take care, of course. So that coming from Papa Joe and MT here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here, hanging out with us Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Of course, we're going to be off for the Christmas holiday, my favorite holiday, celebrating the birth of my favorite person, Jesus Christ. So with that being said, I want to thank you for tuning into the show here on Wake Up Call every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Of course, up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So however you're connected with the show, thank you so much for tuning in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Cannot thank you enough for being a part of it. Once we go live, we hop into the archive, as this show will do, and you will find us on the many avenues that we have: Amazon Music, as well as Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podvine, Podchaser.com, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you got to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT, to find us on any one of these incredible channels that have welcomed us home. I want to thank Brooklyn Pickle down in North Carolina for being amazing. If you're down in North Carolina today or any day, head off to the Brooklyn Pickle, except for Sundays. They are closed for the Lord's Day. Shout out to them for doing that to this day. The Brooklyn Pickle on 1788 Old Morganton Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. We look forward to seeing you down there at the BP. You can visit all of our partners in Central and Upstate New York right here in our community. Carvel DeWitt, where I have my DT Dolphins Sunday. Good no matter what the weather is. Don't let the cold weather fool you. The Wildcat Sports Pub, Servomation. Mother's Cupboard, where you get my sandwich 7 days a week, the Q-Smack Mother, bacon, egg, and cheese inside of 2 pieces of French toast. Pick it up and eat it like a sandwich. Cut it up and have it with some syrup today. And, of course, Avicoli's Canine Camp Dog Daycare, GG Cards and Breaks, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Brian's Landing, Great Lakes Honda City, and Pizza Man, where we will be tonight. You want to preview the DirecTV Holiday Bowl between Syracuse and Washington State? Come see us at Pizza Man tonight. You want to preview the college football playoff? Come see us tonight. We're going to be there. When I say us, who am I talking about? Jeff Cook, a.k.a. Cookie. He is the Beeville Backers president, the Beeville Backers wonderful support team for the Buffalo Bills that calls Pizza Man home. He'll be with us tonight, as well as college football. He knows all about how to win a national championship in college football because he did it. That is Al Romano. Al Romano joining me, Jeff Cook joining me. We will all be on stage at Pizza Man tonight. Come have dinner and a show. Before Thursday Night Football, come and see us. We'll be previewing the college football playoff and previewing the wonderful, wonderful bowl game opportunity for Syracuse in the DirecTV Holiday Bowl between Syracuse and Washington State. We look forward to seeing you tonight at Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York. Can't wait to see you out there. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. Find your Dolphins every Wednesday during Dolphin Time at 9 a.m. Eastern Time weekly. You'll find the Dolphins right here with us, with student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. You can find all of our content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe and hit the notification bell. You can also find them on the Lemoyne playlist that we have on our YouTube channel. And you can find Lemoyne by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to LemoyneDolphins.com. Shout out to their victory on the road at Dartmouth yesterday for the men's basketball team. As always, fins up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bobcats every single month on Wake Up Call. Men's and women's basketball, men's and women's soccer, and baseball coming to you in what we call the Bobcat Buzz. We got an all-new special with the women's soccer head coach Alex Grigorita coming off of their 4th straight season, advancing to the national championship game. You don't want to miss that next week on Christmas Eve. And so a lot of great stuff coming up. You can find your Bobcats by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our BSC Syracuse playlist. You can also find the Bobcats on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com, and shout out to Clay Gagan Sherman and the entire staff and all the student athletes for Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse men's basketball team off to their best start in program history at 10-1. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find Binghamton every single Tuesday during Bearcat time, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time weekly. We're joined by the wonderful student-athletes, administration, and coaches throughout the year. We have moments with Marshall, with Gene Marshall, the athletics director, and the Bearcat Break Room with student-athletes, coaches, and administration. You can find extra content with the Bearcats in 3 Bearcat Break Rooms coming from last night's game that they won with 2 seconds left to go against Mercyhurst. Inbounding the ball is Chris Walker, and Wes Peterson finds him underneath the basket. So he inbounds it to Wes, and then as soon as he inbounds it, he steps in, stands under the basket. Nobody comes over to him. Wes passes him the ball underneath for an uncontested lay-in off the backboard to win the game by 2, 62-60. And you can find all of our content on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt from last night and throughout these wonderful months that we've worked together in year one of our partnership. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find the Binghamton playlist. You can also find the Bearcats on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage, including an article from last night's game and a picture that I took from the game as well with the article on our homepage and on our articles tab. And also underneath the exclusive partners tab, you'll find Binghamton. For more information, go to binghamtonbearcats.com and go Bearcats. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call, find us on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, X at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful day. I cannot wait to see you tonight at Pizza Man. We're talking college football playoff. We're talking the entire bracket. We're predicting the games. We're breaking it down with someone who won a national championship in college football in Al Romano. And, of course, we're going to have Jeff Cookie, who is one of the, he could be called the mayor of Beeville. Could we call him that? So we're going to have Cookie with us. We're going to have Al Romano with us. You're going to be with us. We're going to have dinner. I'm going to get my lemon pepper extra crispy wings and my sweet heat pizza tonight. I'm going to be enjoying some awesome food at Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York. I'm going to love being able to see you and talk with you all. Al, Jeff, and I, college football playoff preview, DirecTV Holiday Bowl preview for Syracuse versus Washington State. All of it happens in the community on site tonight at Pizza Man. We will see you there. In the meantime, God bless, and that's at 6 p.m. tonight, December 19th. In the meantime, God bless, no stress, do your best. Have a wonderful day. MT says Merry Christmas, and to the beautiful, wonderful soul that she is, and just a tremendous person inside and out, Merry Christmas to you, MT. Thanks for being another mom to me. I love you all. I hope you have a great day. And Wake Up Call will talk with you soon. Today we made history because you got to see